Welcome to The Trader, a Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, a writer working in unscripted TV development, and The Trader is usually, as you probably know, dedicated to all English-speaking versions of The Traitors. But while there's a Traitors hiatus for at least the next few months, the podcast is sidestepping a little, and we're going to cover a brand new show, very much still in the world of deception, mystery, and a big cash prize, Netflix's Million Dollar Secret. The show is airing in three batches. Episodes 1 to 3 dropped March 26th, and then episodes 4 to 6 appear a week later, and the final two episodes come out the following Wednesday. So we're going to cover the season week by week in 3 or 4 podcast episodes, which means today we are focusing on episodes 1 to 3 together. The reason I say maybe 4 episodes is, well, there's hopefully a really exciting bonus episode on its way after the finale. Details of that to be revealed later. And of course, I can't do it alone. I need an expert in strategy games and reality TV. Who could that be? Let's find out who's joining me in this new mini season of the podcast. David!
It's me. Yes.
We're reunited once more, of
Yay.
course. In case anyone is joining us for the first time, who the hell are you?
Well, I am David Bloomberg. Yes, if someone is coming in here, they haven't necessarily followed the traders, but they found this new show. I have been covering reality TV for over 24 years, online, in newspaper columns, on my own reality TV websites, and of course, for almost 10 years in podcasts. In addition, I post reality TV videos on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram as at David Bloomberg TV, and pretty much talk about the topic anywhere that anyone will listen.
And now you have just what you needed, another show to add to
Yes.
your roster.
Yes. And since the prize is bigger, since it's $1 million, I decided to dress up.
Yes, I very much appreciate it.
Yeah.
And later in the podcast, you can tell us about what other shows you're covering at the moment so people can find you. Now, a staple of the Trader podcast, which I am continuing for this mini season, is our own game of deception and betrayal, which suits Million Dollar Secret perfectly, I think. It's the Trader Traitor. The mission for David and I from here on in is to tell a lie to each other. Our lie has to be a fabrication or a made-up fact, big or small, about Million Dollar Secret, or about ourselves, or anything we feel like. For example, I could lie to David and say that I was a crew member on this show, and it was my job to make sure no one fed the hounds before the first mission. However, I couldn't lie by saying I don't like the host of Million Dollar Secret when my true feelings are that I do like the host. That would be a fake opinion. So we're looking for fake facts and false pieces of information rather than just fake thoughts and feelings. At the end of the episode, David and I will guess each other's lie, and listeners, you can join in too and see how good you are at playing detective. David, new show, same game. Are you ready to play the Trader Traitor?
I am.
Excellent. So I guess here we go. Whole new show. I'm very excited. Let's get into episodes 1 to 3 of Million Dollar Secret. So we start off with our opening. It's sort of it makes me feel like, it's kind of Traitors-esque. It's like Traitors meets Bond or something like that. It looks like there's going to be lots of drama, emotions, and I think big budget by the looks of it. Netflix is, making billions of dollars of profit, so they can afford to spend a bit of money on these shows. So, like, it looks quite impressive from the preview at the start.
Well, and also they're not paying a whole bunch of people appearance fees like Peacock is for U.S. Traders, which, we found out after the season ended. So we haven't mentioned it, but an article came out showing that our previous estimates of what the some of these reality stars have been getting paid for appearance fees was much. We way underestimated, and they don't have to do that here. These are just regular people, which I like that. Believe me, because it means I can apply. But I also notice right away that the players skew older, which I
Hmm.
also like. This is not a bunch of 20 something kids who just look good in bathing suits running around.
Yeah, I guess I didn't really think of that, but yeah, I guess it is, and I like it too. I'm really happy with the range of cast.
Hmm.
Maybe if they don't have to be the contestants, but probably the host has had a decent fee for this. So the host is Peter Serafinovich. And he's recognizable from like big movies, Star Wars, Shaun of the Dead, Guardians of the Galaxy, John Wick. He's done loads of voice work. I kind of recognize him from a lot of British TV comedy. And I think he's playing the host here a bit more like Alan Cumming in The Traitors. He's sort of inhabiting this character who runs the hotel and stays in character the whole time, it seems like.
Doesn't
Uh,
quite dress like Alan.
no, a bit more conservative than that, yes. Uh,
Slightly.
the hotel is called the Stag, and it's got lots of staff. So there, we're really supposed to believe it's a real hotel. There's staff welcoming the guests. There's a guy in the bar at one point making drinks and serving them food and all that stuff. So at the start of the show, players arrive. They collect keys at random, and each key then has an animal attached, which tells them which room they're going to end up in. It's quite fun. It's like a nice, cool way of getting them in. I don't know how random it all really is. Maybe we'll come back to this in episode two, three. Um, I wonder how, they could put that box with the money in anybody's room after they pick out their keys. I do wonder if they chose the person who ends up getting it, or if it truly is random. Don't know.
I mean, if they, to my mind, if they say it's random, I'm going to trust that it's random unless proven otherwise. I know there are people out there who will go the opposite way
Yeah,
and say, "Oh, nothing's ever random on these shows." But um, I presume that it is random because I mean, they don't care.
yeah,
They don't necessarily care who ends up with it first. It's going to be bouncing around anyway, and there's going to be drama no matter what. So
yeah. And even if we try and find out, I think anyone from the show is gonna just tell us it's random anyway.
yeah,
So,
yeah,
so the players collect their keys, they know the rooms, they meet on the terrace. We get to know a few of them. So the first few players who are highlighted are like Sydney. We've got C Young. She's makes me sort of laugh at the start because she's worried that she's the only nerd and she'll have
yes,
to pretend to be interested in makeup and the Kardashians. So
yes. And I said yes. I feel you, say young. I feel yeah,
yeah, she seems fun.
yeah.
And we are introduced to Lauren as well quite early on. I guess the fact that those players are highlighted maybe implies first episode or two, they might be quite important. We've got Peter. He arrives and he sort of vaguely explains the game. He tells them that in their rooms will be boxes waiting for them, and that one of the boxes will contain $1 million, hence the name of the show. And they'll keep that $1 million if they can keep it a secret throughout the game. Who do we meet next? We've got Sam. Sam tells us that she's a cop, but she's going to keep it a secret from everybody. We see this a lot in other shows,
Hmm.
especially Traitors. We saw it on The Trust as well. I'm sure on the Netflix's The Trust, there was a guy who was a cop, and he decided not to tell other people. Um,
I don't
we,
remember much about the trust. I did not. I, I didn't really like the trust, to be honest with you. I
yeah,
thought it was lacking. Um, and I also there were a number of players on the trust that I thought I didn't particularly like. I am not having that same problem here. Spoiler alert, I like this much, much better.
yeah,
I also like Sam. But of course, Sam starts with, I'm a cop. We're really good at reading people. And instantly, my alert is going off. I have discussed this at length here on my Survivor and Big Brother podcasts. Even most police officers aren't nearly as good at reading people as they believe.
yeah,
Um, and I know it's different, but you will appreciate this. This season of Australian Survivor had a self-proclaimed witch on it who
ooh,
started off by saying she could read people and auras.
oh,
And guess what color aura the guy with the polka dotted shirt had?
was it polka dots?
It was. It was so amazing.
I can read auras too.
Yes. And the funny thing was, I know that the production was having a blast with this because they showed this. And then throughout her time on the season, they showed her being hilariously wrong. including when she went to Mr. Polka Dots in her last episode and said, I can tell if he's lying to me, so I'm going to talk to him. And he fed her what he told us was a load of nonsense. And she came back to us and it was like, oh, I know he's telling me the truth. And then he voted her out. Uh,
Great.
so, but Sam, at least in this first episode, does seem decent at it from
Yeah.
what we're shown.
Yeah.
Then again, I don't think you have to be an expert at reading people to read this particular person who it becomes the millionaire without getting ahead of ourselves. And also, I will have some thoughts on reading people overall
Mm,
at the end of the podcast, which,
yes.
we'll get to that.
Yeah. David, I can read your aura right now. It's I'm seeing books I think you know how to read. Am I correct?
No, because those are all fake. So,
No, they're not those. They're the ones in your aura. You can't see them.
oh,
Yeah, Sam, I thought the same as you. When she says, I can read, I'm really good at reading people, I thought, yeah, I bet you're not going to be, but she proved me wrong a little bit, to a point.
mhm.
Um, we've also got, I think it's pronounced Jamie. Is it Jamie?
I believe it's
Jaimi.
Jamie
Okay.
also. Yes. Uh, I, uh, I had a very short interaction with her on Threads. I
Ah.
happened to look to see. I wanted to look to see how many people are talking about this show. So I
Hmm.
clicked on the hashtag, and she was one person who was like, "Hey, I'm on the show." And hey, spoiler for next episode, I responded and said, "Good shooting," and she said, "Thanks." That was the extent of our interaction.
Oh
So
well.
yeah,
Well, maybe she's listening. Maybe you've
yes,
provoked her to listen to the podcast.
yeah.
Hello. We've also got Chris. Chris tells us that he doesn't actually want to win the money straight away. He wants to lay
Mhm.
low, then get the money later. And I don't know the format well enough at this point to know if that's a good strategy,
Right.
but it seems like he knows the format better than I do. So, and as the episodes go on, I do think, oh, yeah, actually, this seems pretty wise. And this might be a good chance to mention a TV show that aired last year here in the UK called Fortune Hotel. I know a lot of people listening will have seen it in the UK. It's quite a similar premise to this. It's set in a hotel in another, a nice warm country, warmer than the UK. The host is an actor called Stephen Mangan. And it's yeah, people arrive in their rooms. They play in couples in this game or pairs. And one of the rooms has they all have a suitcase, and one of the suitcases has lots of money in it. Uh, David, are you ever going to watch Fortune Hotel before I spoil something?
No, I am not going to watch Fortune Hotel.
Okay. Listeners, if you don't want to know the outcome of this UK show called Fortune Hotel, skip ahead a little bit. The couple who began the game with the money in Fortune Hotel actually end up winning the show. It comes all the way back round to them and they win it in the end. One of many reasons I didn't love the show. It's coming back
Mm.
for a second series, but uh, so far, Million Dollar Secret is doing a much better job, I feel.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's funny that you mentioned he seems to understand it better because throughout there are different times as we go through where I'm like, well, why are you making that move? Why are you making that move? And it turns out to work out. And it does really seem like the players were almost given a sit down tutorial of
yeah,
we don't want to surprise you. Here is what is going to happen. The money is going to potentially bounce around. If you do this, it can do this, da 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 da. And we weren't given that tutorial. We were given a very short intro.
yeah,
And so, yeah, like later on here, when Lauren is given the option to let go of the money, and I was like, well, that's a terrible idea. You'll still be a target. And then it turns out he, the host tells everybody this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, I guess if she knew that, then it wasn't a terrible idea.
yeah,
And
yeah.
and so yeah, they really seem to know. There's a lot of shows out that their goal is to trick the players and put twists in there and stuff. And even later, someone's going to say something about lying about their job. And
Mm,
they say, and I'll have thoughts about that, but they say it's because there will be clues later and they don't want their job to be a clue.
yeah,
Now we know from previews for the whole season that at one point, one of the clues is they're lying about their job. So, they don't really help themselves in that way, but at least potentially. Um, so yeah, I see what Chris is talking about here as kind of like we have talked about. You don't necessarily want to be an initial trader on the traders.
Hmm.
You want to be the recruited trader.
Yeah.
And I think that's the same with the money. The longer you have the money, the more chance someone is going to figure you out.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. The next thing I'm gonna jump to here, David, maybe I've missed something that you wanted to mention, but quite soon after this, we see the players. They're in the rooms, they open the boxes one by one, most of them receiving notes explaining that someone else has found the million and they now need to track them down. And it ends up being Lauren, who previously we saw her mentioning leaving her husband and kid. She's finding it hard. She finds the $1 million in her box in her hotel room. Peter then comes to Lauren and gives her a secret agenda. That's the sort of a format feature that's going to be in every episode, I reckon. If she can hug everyone before the first activity at sundown, she'll get 2 extra votes at the first elimination dinner. And then we've got this. I'm calling it a tannoy system. Is that like the term that you would use, like a PA system? You know the speakers.
Like a PA system, I think.
Okay, okay,
But even before that, when uh, the agenda, the secret agenda,
yeah,
I know that there have already been articles written about Netflix just stole the format of the traders and changed it up a little bit, and which I disagree with. I think it is similar enough to keep interest, but different enough to be a different show.
mm,
I do think that the creators incorporated some things that a lot of people, including us, have been saying. We have said, wouldn't it be great if the traders had their own mission that would help them?
yeah,
Wouldn't it be great if there were clues involved in the challenges that help the faithful, determine the traders? So, what do we have in this show? We have a secret agenda for the millionaire, and we have the trophy room for
yeah,
everyone else.
yeah.
And so I do think that the creators of this show, the producers of the show, were taking notes and being like, ooh, yes, we like that idea. Let's incorporate it.
Yeah, I agree. Particularly about the trophy room that we'll get to. Yeah, that
Yeah,
one of the complaints, I guess, about the traitors is the faithful. They're in the dark. How the hell are they supposed to find traitors? Like, what are they going
right.
on? This show gives them things to go on. So
Maybe a little
I
too many things, as we'll figure out
maybe.
at the end, but you know.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, I like the differences. I like the format points. So over the PA system, Peter lets everyone else know, the millionaire has been given their secret agenda. So they know, again, you
Right.
said that they know what's going on to an extent. They know that whoever the millionaire is going to try and do something. I quite like this method of communication, the speakers in the rooms. It's quite quirky, it's a little bit different. And yeah, I like the idea of the secret agenda. I mentioned the trust earlier. I actually quite enjoyed the trust on Netflix. I finished the season. It was better than I thought it was going to be, but this already suggests, oh, there's more format here than the trust. The trust
Yes.
didn't really have much to it. It was kind of
Right.
like 70% reality, 30% actual game. But this is a game. This is a real strategy game.
Yes, exactly.
I'm going to move to well, I can't tell if it's lunch or breakfast. It's a meal.
Well, I want to talk because I think we meet him before lunch or breakfast, Harry.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Um, and he tells us that he is a natural photographer,
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
and he is the king of nonverbal tells. And my immediate reaction is, great, another one. First of all, what the heck is a natural photographer? I guess I could have Googled it instead of just asking. But it's either like someone who photographs nature, which has nothing to do with reading people,
Mm.
or like some people are like a natural soccer player. They're so good at it that they're a natural. Is he a natural at being a photographer? And again, what does that have to do with anything?
Yeah, my guess is it's a sort of almost like a candid photographer. Like he doesn't compose shots and set things up. He kind of
Hmm.
captures people in the
Okay.
moment. So he
Ah,
thinks he's good at like
okay.
capturing people unseen and reading them and stuff like that. That's my
Okay.
guess.
I mean, there are definitely photographers who are like that. I mean, I was just looking at some of the first wedding pictures to come through from my son's
Yeah.
recent marriage. And some of the pictures really popped. I actually was telling my newest daughter-in-law this that you could really feel what was going on in the picture, which is not always the case. Sometimes things look very posed.
Yeah.
And I was telling her, yeah, you could really feel it. So maybe he's like that.
Yeah.
Uh, to be clear, Harry did not take the photos at my
You-
son's wedding. Um,
That would have been an amazing
it
coincidence.
would have, it would have, but since he's in Hawaii and this was in Cincinnati, it's a bit of a flight. Uh, Now the funny thing is now that I okay, so this is where we get to breakfast,
Yes.
and it, you know he starts out by telling everyone that he wants to do this
Hawaiian prayer.
yeah, and holding hands.
Yeah.
If I were there, that I would immediately be on guard, which a number of people are. Like, is this a secret agenda? What is going on here?
Yeah.
And uh, other players are like, nope, nope, it's okay. Now, first of all, I have said this before. If you don't know people very well, and sometimes even if you do, you should not be so presumptuous as to say, let's have a group prayer. You
Yeah.
don't know what their beliefs are. They may be very different from yours. They may not believe in any prayer. And so, like, several people were like, I'm not comfortable with this.
Yeah.
I don't normally say grace. Now, they may have been using that for game purposes, so they didn't all hold hands if in case it was his secret agenda. But they also could have been very well telling the truth. And it is
Mhm.
very awkward when you do that to someone else that you have just met, and it can put you on their bad side right away.
Yeah.
Um, and guess what? Harry doesn't read the nonverbal tells of people thinking this is weird.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. I had the same reaction. Actually, my first reaction wasn't even, oh, this might be his secret agenda. My first reaction was just, if I sat at a table with a bunch of people and someone wanted to join hands I would also be like, I'm not doing this. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
So, and that's how it goes down. It's very awkward. And yeah,
yeah.
Lydia immediately thinks this is secret agenda. This is strange.
Mm-hmm.
We've got a countdown on screen showing us the actual secret agenda's countdown. Lauren has 2 hours remaining. My thought here
Oh, we
was,
didn't even mention what it was. She has to hug everybody.
she's got to tag everyone. This is my thought. I don't know what you think. I wouldn't bother with the secret agenda. I
Bingo.
she at this point, and it depends what each time it depends what the reward is. I
Mm-hmm.
thought 2 extra votes at this point. I thought it's the
Right.
first day. Your chances of being eliminated are quite slim, like 1 in 12. I just thought I just wouldn't do it. Just lay
Were you
low.
reading my notes, or have we just been podcasting together enough about this type of show? Because, yeah, the task itself could potentially put eyes on her.
Yeah, yeah,
Much like Harry trying to get everybody to join hands. I say let it go. Don't bother with it. Who cares?
yeah. And it changes a little bit in episode, I think, 3 when there becomes a
Yes.
penalty for not doing
Yes.
it. So that's different. But at this point, there is no penalty. Yeah, I say just don't do it. Yeah, I think that trying to hug everyone, it just could look too obvious. People
Hmm.
might catch on. So
I mean, and that's, Say Young even says in conversation around the table, the goal should just be to stay in the game, which you
yeah,
do by doing well in challenges, having conversations, etc.
yeah.
That is the goal. Stay in the game, wait for the money to come to you.
Yeah. Yeah, that my next note is about Se Young. She talks about trying to build friendships, build
Hmm.
alliances. I thought that seemed smart. Again, it seemed, and she said, she's a nerd, she's a game player. Like this is,
Hmm.
I guess this is her zone, or maybe not, as it turns out soon. But uh, Lauren, anyway, she gets her first few hugs in. She
Hmm.
at some point she walks into, calling it the crying room. There's a bunch of people upset about something. They're having quite deep conversations. She takes her chance. She hugs a couple of people there. Sam does notice her behavior. So Sam does think something is strange, but then also thinks that Sydney's lying because she wouldn't name the bar that she works at. Sydney does then tell the viewer, I'm not telling them the truth. So
Right.
maybe Sam
She's
is.
the one I was talking about earlier. Now, amongst all these, I have to come back to Harry again here
Yeah.
because he's standing there after Lauren gets her first three hugs. He's standing there in the kitchen area lecturing the chef and Lauren about Maui Gold pineapples and how great they are. I mean, they're good. Don't get me wrong. But the chef just gives him this look like, why am I hearing this from you? And Harry, expert in nonverbal tells, does not pick up on it at all.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, he reminds me of I think he reminds me of like some of the Australian players we saw on Traitors. I've seen players like this before, I think, who
Mm-hmm.
just don't read the room, don't read the other players, and as it turns out, just kind of make a bit of an outcast of themselves. Which, as Se Young told us, don't be an outcast, build
Right.
friendships, make people like you. So
Yeah.
I guess Harry's not doing a great job of that. Uh, on the other hand, at this point, we've got Corey. Corey's a little bit of he's a bit suspicious of Sam because Sam is crying. We see lots of crying, but Sam, I guess,
Yes.
is the first one to do it. Corey finds that a bit suspicious. Lauren manages to pull off the mission in the literal final seconds. She gets Corey to hug her as they're walking down the steps. I this is a lot of time we talk about countdowns on shows
Yeah.
for missions and we don't believe them. I guess we can see that this kind of is legitimate. They're
Right.
literally walking to the garden to meet Peter. That is
Right.
the last moment. So it's she really does do it in the last few seconds that she has possible. Again, I wouldn't have bothered, but she does it, and it doesn't
Right.
seem like enough people notice it as strange. No one seems to come back to. I mean, she gets in trouble for other reasons, but I don't think
Yeah.
it's the hugging.
I mean,
So
I think that it plays into it later. I think some people do remember it a little bit, but
okay,
I don't know that it's anything major.
yeah, yeah,
I think that Sydney's lie that you mentioned
mm,
is worse. Where she says, "Oh, I do bottle service in Scottsdale, Arizona," but then Sam is like, "Oh, what restaurant?" Or what, and she's like, uh, we move around a lot. And Sam's like, "I've been to Scottsdale once, and I can tell you more restaurants than she can."
yeah. Just name a
Um,
place.
yeah, really. I mean, I've been to Scottsdale. My parents had a condo in Scottsdale, so I've been there. I couldn't name a place. It's been a few years.
Yeah,
I've never had bottle service. But um, it- the thing is, her actual job again is in medical sales. So she's only literally lying to lie
yeah,
because it's not like someone's going to say, "Oh my gosh, you're in medical sales. You might be sneaky." And it's like, mm, I,
I mean, yeah. I guess she thinks I want to appear like less educated or something. Like I just want to appear quite like simplest. I don't know. I don't know. She
she
thinks I don't
blows
want to
that
appear
by
smart.
she blows that pretty quickly. But um, I think she may think that there are clues that say something like this person works in the medical field or something like that.
Yeah,
I don't think
maybe,
they
yeah.
will ever get that specific. Like I don't think there's one that's going to say this person, the millionaire is a cop.
Yeah, yeah. This person has
Um,
blonde hair.
right, right. So I think she's overplaying a bit from that standpoint,
Yeah. And
which
if she planned to lie about that, like complete like make up more of the lie. Make up the name
yeah,
of the place you
yeah.
yeah.
And if you're worried that someone might have been there, say, "Oh, it's this new place called, Bubbly Time."
Yeah.
And, okay,
Yeah.
but be ready for it.
Yeah. So it's time for the mission at this point, and we were told that the six winners of the mission will gain access to the trophy room, and the trophy room has information about the millionaire. It's kept, fairly vague at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So they pair up, thinking that they're working cooperatively, but there's a twist. Actually,
They
the pairs will be opponents.
they fell for the Squid Game twist. Come on.
Fools. They obviously hadn't watched. One person has to run through an obstacle course, unlocking gates along the way, while the other person is unlocking a hound, an actual dog, by memorizing a code that will release the dog. There, there was an entire TV show in the UK about this. There was a whole show about being chased by dogs. It was called Release the Hounds. I only found out about the show like last year. It ran for 5 years. Like there were like 5 seasons of the show, and I haven't watched a whole episode. I've seen like a clip of it. But yeah, it was. I think it was all celebrities. They did puzzles or missions, and what they would do throughout the episode was build up time, and the time they built up was the head start they had on the dog, and then the climax of the show is just them running
And
away
that's where
from
they
a
got the
dog.
dog.
Like,
I mean, I did not think that they were actually going to have a hound chase them. I thought it was going to be like the dog would be in a separate track and whoever
mm,
passed first. But clearly, the dog has been trained to attack an object that was
yeah,
attached to their belts.
yeah.
But still, it was surprising to me when I saw that the dog was actually leaping towards them, you know.
Yeah, and I love dogs, but yeah, I'd be a bit scared.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to go into the mission too much. Fill
Hmm.
in anything you want to yeah, I've missed out, David. I have just noticed that Lydia seems quite pretty smart. She figures out, well, you don't need to memorize the code all in one go. Just
Right.
memorize the first four, do it, run back. That the code, the lock's not going to time out. So
Right.
she just does it in two parts. Lauren copies this.
Yeah,
Um,
that was the one thing that I thought was a flaw in the game design was that they allowed people to
to
watch.
watch, yeah, yeah.
And therefore, because Lydia went second, everybody else tried copying Lydia after that. Not everybody succeeded, but everyone tried copying Lydia. And it's like, no, you shouldn't have them able to watch her do this, and get hints on what
Yeah.
would happen.
Yeah, it felt like the guy, I think it's the guy who went first, was a bit disadvantaged because yeah, he hadn't had to watch anyone else, so
Yeah, I think it
he
was
was doing it
Phil.
fresh.
Phil was
Uh,
trying to do it first, and yeah,
and then you're right, Sam really struggled to like memorize the she talks about it later. She
she
claims
says
that
the
her baby
card was upside down or
flipped.
something.
I
Okay,
I think that's not what happened, but hey,
yeah.
uh, maybe she was stressed. The stress got to her. So, by the end of it, here are the winners. The winners are Se Young, Lauren, Cara, Sydney, Lydia, and Corey. And Peter explains to all of the players they'll vote tonight at an elimination dinner. Person with the most votes leaves. I assumed at this point they'll reveal the contents of their box. I wondered what would happen. I'll still wonder what happens if they find the millionaire. I wonder if does the millionaire choose in secret who it passes on to? Is it randomly assigned? The way the episodes go, I now think it'll just be randomly assigned to
Yeah,
someone
I think
else.
so. Yeah. Also, I
Um,
don't think they're voting tonight. I think they vote tomorrow night
okay, yeah, that's another thing
because there's a
about.
breakfast. I have notes about breakfast in the middle here. So
Yeah, yeah. It's they don't. It doesn't seem to be just a whole day, a whole day, a whole day. It's things seem to run over like a couple of days before dinner. So I did notice that, or before eliminations.
yeah,
Yeah, because we go to the next morning. We've got the announcement through the speakers in the rooms. Peter tells them that the millionaire was successful with their secret agenda.
which is
Lauren,
interesting that that he tells them that. I
yeah,
did not expect, uh, them to say, "Oh yeah, they succeeded,"
yeah.
and then
I guess it's another example of this. Um, they want to make it a bit more of an even playing
hmm
field between the person who's keeping a secret and all the people who are trying to find out what the secret is. So this is another part of that, I suppose.
yeah.
We've got Lauren. She is the millionaire. She's talking in her interview about this triple vote that she's now won. And she says she's going to have to find someone, who's she going to give it to? She should find someone who is acting suspiciously and just try and get rid of them. But I didn't think that was a good idea. I thought, shouldn't you keep the suspicious people in the game? Like traitors. Like, don't,
Yes,
why get rid of
un-
someone who's acting weirdly now?
I guess what you well, that is a very good question because
Especially when they don't reveal the votes are
I guess
secret.
I guess if she's worried that there could be some votes on herself and some,
Yeah.
if it could be a split vote, then you want to
I guess.
ensure that the other person is going to be the one who gets dunked on.
Yeah. Yeah. I guess that makes sense. If she thinks there's a
Hmm.
chance
Right.
she's going to get some heat.
Yeah.
I just didn't at this point. I didn't think she thought that, but maybe she did. Uh, she ends up trying to talk to a lot of the others about Harry and his attempts to, like we talked about, get everyone to hold hands, do the prayer circle. Even there was a point as well where everybody put their hands,
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
a
He
circle.
had said, let's celebrate, hands in,
Yeah,
and everything. And Se Young is like, who did that? And it's like,
yeah,
who was that? Oh yeah, it was Harry.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, I mean, it's bad luck in some ways for Harry, but also not great play for Harry in both cases.
yeah, sure. So yeah, Lauren, yeah, she uses it. She jumps in it as
Hmm.
seems like a good idea. We there's a moment where Sam takes herself off for a nap. And like Harry, I thought, I mean, maybe she's really unwell and she desperately has to go and lie down. But my reaction was, do you think this is going to make you look bad? Like,
Well,
this
and
is
that's
not.
exactly why I would be like, okay, she's obviously not the millionaire because the millionaire would not do that. They would
Yeah, I
not be so
guess.
stupid, and because she's then not even in uh, later. There's another part where she leaves breakfast and then later on she's also not involved. So clearly
Yeah,
she is sick.
yeah,
She has caught something in the travel here or something like that she is just not feeling well.
yeah.
Um, but you know, I mean, she's probably lucky on some shows they just boot her. They'd just be like,
Mm,
okay, you're not feeling
yeah,
well. We're
yeah.
gonna get rid of you.
Unless someone poisoned her and has tried to literally kill her off. Let's start a rumor. Next up, I'm going to move to the trophy room. It took me a bit of careful listening here to figure out how this would work. I found it a tricky process
Mm-hmm.
to kind of get to grips with what was going to happen. Peter reveals they will. He says they'll get to vote to reveal the contents of. There's a box. There's all the boxes in the room
Right.
with everybody's name on them. And he says you'll vote to reveal the contents of one of them. I thought this meant, um, yeah, they would all vote, and whoever got the most votes, that's the one that they would open. That's not really what happens. And then yeah, because I wondered, wait a minute, what if they actually find the millionaire? Like, what happens now? But it doesn't. I was confused. I didn't know what was going to happen. Here's who they all pick. Lydia wants to reveal Harry. Corey votes for Sam, and then Se Young votes for Lauren. And again, she explained why she was voting for Lauren, and I really couldn't get my head around it. It was only after it all carried through that I thought, oh, now I get it. Um,
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense, but she should have explained it before the first two people voted.
yeah, um,
And it was kind of like, well, okay, I suspect Harry, so let's pick a bunch of people we don't suspect so that therefore we'll narrow it down to Harry.
yeah, um,
But if you
yeah.
already suspect Harry, just vote for him and see what happens.
So Se Young's theory is, yeah, I'm going to pick Lauren because I trust her.
Hmm.
And then the other players follow on with that line of thought. So Cara then picks Se Young, and Lauren picks Corey, Sydney picks Phil.
Hmm.
It's funny, even like Peter actually, the host seems kind of surprised by it. He's like, "Oh, that's how you're going to play this, okay?" Um, and he reveals that only one of the people in this room will find out the secret information.
Hmm.
So it's sort of then I start to get what's going on here. Um, and that person can then do what they want with the information. They can tell the others, they can keep it a secret, they can lie about it, whatever. Lydia is selected as like this. I'm calling it the seer. That's not what it
Hmm.
is, but it's this show's version of the seer.
Yeah.
And everyone else leaves. Peter reveals to her alone that one of the people whose names were listed by the group is the millionaire. That's all he reveals. Uh, so yeah, whoever's in Lydia's shoes, they could do what they want. They could tell everyone that, they could keep it to themselves. If Lydia was the millionaire, she could use it to her advantage. She could make up some
Right.
lie, whatever.
Right. And we also find out at this point that Lydia is not just some, random grandma who comes, but is a professional poker player.
Yes.
And at that point, it clicks in my head. I'm like, I knew that I had seen her somewhere. So I looked her up. There's a website called the Hendon Mob. It tracks poker tournament wins, not cash game, because nobody tracks those except the IRS. But and she does have a decent record. She's not hitting the millions or anything like that, but I must have seen her on some show or another because she had a couple cashes over 50 grand, which is
Wow.
definitely more than I've ever had. Um, Now, I will say Hendon Mob is not perfect. It only shows one of my all time tournament caches, which is a bit annoying to my ego because I had three, I'll have you know. Um, it's a little weird with one of them because it was literally in the same tournament series as another one where I cashed. And it's like, how did you get the information about one and not the other?
Hmm.
But what are you going to do?
Okay. Yeah, when she talked about being a poker player,
Yeah.
I thought, David plays poker.
Yes.
Yay.
I've
You
never played
may.
with her. I think she's down in Dallas, I believe. So um Dallas has laws that are in varying league. Oddly enough, Texas Hold'em poker is banned in Texas.
Oh, how weird.
Um but then they opened up they found a loophole. Some Texas entrepreneurs found a loophole that you could open a poker club.
No.
And if you pay an entry fee and then you just play with chips and you cash out those chips at the end, it falls under like a bingo type rule. They don't call it gambling. They call it there's another word for it that I can't think of. But um, so they opened up these poker rooms there, and they were like, "Haha, we're legal now." And then some local cops and prosecutors said, "Haha, no, you're not," and started raiding them. So honestly, I don't know what the status is in Dallas right now because
Hmm.
different places took different views of the law.
Yeah. I've never played poker, and I should start playing it and win lots of money. That's
I
what
will.
I. That's.
I'll teach you
Yay. We'll
because
become rich.
I would never lie to you or bluff you.
No, you're always very honest. You never catch me out. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, Lydia, she reveals the secret about herself. She returns to the group outside and she just decides to tell them the truth. I guess she's got
Yeah,
no reason not
I
to.
mean, there's no reason. Yeah, at this point, right?
So she reveals that one of the named players is the millionaire. The trophy room group then break off on their own. They discuss what to do next. Do we tell everybody the names or
Mm-hmm.
not? And yeah, they decide, yeah, let's just tell them. And they nominate Lauren to do this, ironically.
And
Um,
this is when I noticed that Sam still isn't there, by the way.
yes, I've got the
Which,
same note. She's still in
yeah,
her room.
yeah.
Yeah, so there's obviously an issue.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Phil suggests that maybe is Lydia lying? Maybe do we trust her? She could be the millionaire herself. Maybe she wants to throw the blame off. But I sort of wondered, well, if they eliminate those six people, at this point, I didn't know that the money's going to shift around. I thought, well, if you eliminate those six people one by one, by episode six, you'll realize that Lydia was lying. But
Doesn't help the six people who are voted out, though. Yeah.
no.
Kind of like
So
when you vote out a sorry, when you banish a faithful, it's like, well, okay, we've narrowed it down. Doesn't help them any, but too
no,
bad.
no, yeah, too bad. Uh, so next, I'm going to jump to the elimination, unless you got
Mm-hmm.
anything else here. Um, Sydney, well, we've got Sydney going to Sam's room and catches up Sam on, everything that she missed.
Mm-hmm.
And we hear various people's suspicions. Sam says that she's positive Lauren is the millionaire.
Yes.
They all arrive then at the table, and it literally is they
Well,
actually eat dinner.
Yeah, and the other thing is, Sam Sam also says if a lion is chasing you, which normally in the US, this little what's the word I'm looking for? There's a little story. There's a word for it.
Anecdote, analogy.
Anecdote. Yeah, this anecdote is if a bear, you only have to be faster than the bear.
Mhm.
So, but she says if a lion is chasing you, you just have to run faster than the person next to you. And I'm thinking, okay, but Lauren is ahead of you. Like more people at this point trust Lauren than you.
Mm,
So if you just have to outrun the person next to you, let the vote happen how it's going to happen. Don't try to reach out and grab Lauren and pull her
yeah,
back.
yeah,
Uh,
uh, yeah. I never thought of
yeah.
that. Sam says a few strange things, I think.
Yes.
So they're having their dinner with Peter. It's kind of strange. I don't know
Mm-hmm.
if I guess I like it. It's makes it feel like they're keeping up the fake story that
Right.
he runs the hotel. And I would love if like Claudia Winkleman and UK traitors sat and had dinner with him. It'd be great fun. All right,
But
and had
this is
breakfast
kind of
with him.
like a version of the round table. Like they do it while eating dinner because
Yeah,
he's like, so anything suspicious happened lately?
yeah, yeah,
Which would normally come up in the traders round table. Um, this reminds me more of the mole, where the host used to, sit and eat with the players
mm,
and chat, and then occasionally there'd be things that happen there too. But he was always eating dinner with the players,
yeah,
and um, so yeah, and of course, what happens when he says, "Is there anything suspicious?" Lauren's like, "Oh, Harry always wants to hold hands,"
yeah.
and
I thought it was funny that Lydia, I thought that Lydia was going to be the one to say that because actually I think she brought it. She was the very first person to notice it and bring it up. But actually, I
Mhm.
think she deliberately just lets someone else do it.
Yeah.
So I thought it was quite obvious that yeah, she just doesn't speak up, which is
Hmm.
probably smart, and so she lets Lauren just do it for her. Um, some suspicion is falling on Sam because of how she failed the mission, and yeah,
Which is
we talked about
weird.
this. Yeah,
I
it
mean,
doesn't. There's no I don't know why they're suspicious of her, but not the other five people who failed. And also, why would she deliberately fail it anyway?
it's like she failed so that she wouldn't go to the trophy room so that suspicion wouldn't fall on her. It's like, okay,
Yeah,
now you're just doing backwards somersaults to try to blame someone.
yeah,
Because if she had succeeded, you'd be also saying, she tried so hard so she could go to the trophy room and get the secret information.
yeah. I guess it suggests kind of like other shows like this that episode one they have so little to go on that they're
Hmm.
kind of just grasping at like, well, did anyone do anything strange? And maybe they thought it's really weird that she couldn't memorize that
Right,
code. But again, well, she wasn't the only person that couldn't do it, so.
right.
Um, Harry actually brings up Lauren, funnily enough. He says that she's sort of under the radar. And now Se Young says that she suspects her too. I don't know what was going on here.
Yeah, it's a little weird. Se Young had confused me through her time here. But Harry really seems to only fire back at Lauren because Lauren, from what we saw, I would say Lauren's like, Harry did these suspicious things. And then Harry's like, oh, yeah, well,
Well,
people
you.
have been ignoring Lauren, and it's like, was he going to bring it up otherwise?
Yeah, maybe
I
not.
would guess not.
Yeah. It was yeah, but yeah, Se Young just it really, really surprised me there. Not sure if that was like I don't know if it was some tactic
Yeah.
that I don't understand. I thought they were close, and she picked
Hmm.
her in the name in the trophy room because she really trusted her. I don't
Right.
know. I don't know if she's trying to play different people and it seems strange. So Peter tells them at this point it's time to vote. And the episode ends, and it's kind of a cliffhanger, but not really because you can watch episode two straight away.
Right. Right.
And that's what we're going to do. We're going to move right onto it. We don't have to wait a week. Yeah, episode two starts right at this moment. Time for the vote. Votes are anonymous, so actually they all select the name on a card, hand it to the staff. And yeah, we've watched all three episodes. We're going to talk about them. It doesn't seem at this point they don't. ever reveal the votes. There's not even like a vote count. There is for the viewers most of the time, but um, they
Yeah,
they have
it's
the
just a
option, I
matter
guess.
of right. It's just a matter of whose key he pulls out. Up, it's Harry,
Yeah,
and yeah, and then I don't understand why we don't find out what the vote count was. Because, like, I want to know, did the extra two votes Lauren, got to cast make a difference?
yeah.
And so,
Um,
my first thought, since this was the first vote, was, oh, I guess we're just never going to see. But then for the second and third vote, we do get to see.
yeah.
So it's
I
really weird.
I had a couple of theories that then as I watched on, I thought, no, that doesn't make sense. I even sent you a message saying, hey, I
Yes.
think I know why they did this. And then half an hour later, I was like, nope, that didn't work. The only thing I can think of is something you just suggested. Maybe this is a terrible theory. Maybe Lauren's two extra votes made no difference, and so they don't show it because it kind of suggests that her prize for the secret agenda was a bit useless, and they don't want us to think that the secret agenda has no effect. So,
I
uh,
mean, it may have been that it was a unanimous vote against Harry, and they didn't want to show
yeah,
that literally everyone voted against Harry.
yeah, yeah.
That
But then it
they,
would have been nice to see who he voted for,
I
unless
think
it
it
was
was
obvious
clear,
he was going to pick
Lauren.
Lauren. But
Yeah.
yes,
So,
not sure about
so
that
yeah.
one.
And then, he's like, he gets angry, which understandable, and he says, oh, you've all been played. Well, yeah, but Harry, you screwed up by doing suspicious things for no reason.
Yeah,
And later, other people say something similar. Now, I did make a video about Harry and his claim of being able to read people despite not seeing things like the obvious look the chef gave him.
yeah.
He saw it on TikTok, did not tag him, but he saw it on TikTok and he commented that, well, I was the one at the table who called Lauren out. And I was like, I mean, I didn't respond to him. I'm not here to get into a fight with some of the people on the show. I mean, if he's watching this, then I guess he'll hear my response. But okay, sure, you called Lauren out, but it was after he had already been called out by Lauren.
Yeah,
Like there was no indication he was planning to call Lauren out otherwise. And by the time he did, it was too late.
yeah,
So just saying I called Lauren out, that shows that I had read her. It's like you couldn't tell that the chef was rolling his eyes at you. You couldn't tell that everyone thought it was suspicious that you wanted to hold hands not once but twice.
yeah.
So yeah, you might want to go back and get a refund on that. Well, I guess it was natural. He has a natural ability to do it. So you know.
Yeah, he seemed quite salty when he left.
I mean, I
Uh,
don't blame him. I'd be salty too, but I would hope I'd be able to. I'd have been able to read if I thought I could. I'd hope that I'd have been able to read people and know that I was going to get booted.
yeah, exactly. And I did like Peter's line that he delivers to Harry. He says, "Harry, you are not a millionaire and never will be."
Yeah,
Oh, ouch. That's quite harsh.
please
Uh,
check out of the stag or whatever he
yeah,
says,
yeah.
something like that.
Check out immediately. Yes.
Yeah, it's like, oh God, you're going to make me actually go down to the front desk too. I can't just leave.
Yeah, hand in my key.
Yeah,
Pay extra charges.
yeah.
Uh,
Sir, you use the mini bar.
So the others discuss his exit around the fireplace a little later, and they're still
There's a
focusing
I
on
have a
the.
fireplace.
Yes, you do. Yeah, it's wow. It's moving. It's, it's been going this whole time.
Yeah,
Uh,
my
the
back
players
is
are
getting very
still
warm.
the players are still focusing on the six people who were named in the trophy room in the last episode, and Sam seems determined to catch Lauren, which ends up being very strange later, and we'll figure out why. Well, in my opinion. So, next morning, Lauren seems to be really struggling. She's upset
Oh,
about.
before hold on, before we get to next morning, I'm
Oh,
sorry. I
oh
thought it
yeah,
was really funny that Sam, because we didn't mention earlier, Sam. We mentioned she was lying about being a cop,
yeah.
but she also kind of screwed up her lie
Oh
because
yes,
they were like, well, what do you do? And she's like, well, I lost my job during COVID. Oh, what were you? I worked in like a dental office. That's almost as bad as the Scottsdale lie. Like, have something. What does I worked in like a dental office mean? You know, like I
Yeah,
was a receptionist at a dental office. I was a I did the cleanings, whatever, something like. I mean, I don't think she's making herself out like that. I think it is a more like a receptionist or something like. But then
yeah,
say that. Don't be like, oh, I worked at like a dental office.
yeah.
Um,
I thought the same
but
thing.
but then she's like, oh, we need to grill the five to figure out who's lying. And I'm thinking, yes, just like someone would say if they worked in like a dental office, not at all like a cop would say.
Yeah. Also, isn't that if your fake story is you lost your job because of COVID, surely like dental offices weren't that affected. Like that's one of the things that had like remained open because people need like
No,
medical attention. I don't know.
no. Dental offices were definitely
What, what
closed.
what did people
Um,
do about like dental
I
emergencies?
mean, they had, but I
I don't
mean,
know.
a lot of people didn't go in for, regular cleanings, for example.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah, sure. That's
and
true.
stuff
Okay.
like that. So,
But
yeah,
yeah,
for emergencies, but
it was funny. She hesitated and didn't have
yeah,
like I'm a dental nurse. I'm a
yeah,
receptionist.
yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. Uh, so yes, we've got Lauren the next morning getting really upset about having to lie in the game.
It's the first, what, the
It's
first,
day
I guess,
three
two
or
days
whatever.
or something. I mean, it is way too soon for you to be breaking down from lying.
Yeah. And again, you signed up to the show, you knew what it was. Like it's not like a surprise, surely.
Yeah.
The show has the word secret in the title. Peter visits her, and he has her new secret agenda. And she has a choice of two rewards this time. She could either choose three guests whose votes will not count at the elimination dinner, or she can move the money into someone else's box if she survives the next elimination. So she chooses the second option, that if she survives, she's going to move the money on. Um, I I guess if she realizes there's a tension on her at this point, yeah, that's a good idea, but only if she does what she ends up doing. Only if you then tell everybody or can prove that you don't have it now,
Right.
which
I
which
mean,
she kind of does get to do.
yeah, I was thinking, and I talked about this earlier, that I did not realize that Peter would announce that the money had moved on. In that
Yeah,
case, no, I would absolutely not move it because you've already got attention on you, might as well. But yes, with the knowledge that he will announce it,
yeah,
then yes, get it out of my hands. That's fine. I'll wait for it to come back to me at another time. Of course, you have to be able to handle that correctly in order to make it work.
yeah. And I assume that he told her if
Right.
you take that option,
Right.
everyone will know that it has moved. So
Hmm.
otherwise, I don't think there's any point to moving it. Other than you telling everyone, I promise I had it and I moved it,
Right.
then there's no way to prove it.
Right.
So what she has to do, her task is to use some song titles and conversation. They are Smooth Criminal, Every Rose Has Its Thorn, Don't Stop Believing, Cry Me a River, and You Need to Calm Down. And
Yeah,
she
I had
has,
never heard of that last one,
oh,
and but
it's a
I
Taylor
looked it
Swift
up.
song.
Yes, I was gonna say I looked it up, and I was like, oh, it's a Taylor Swift song. Okay.
Yes, I'm a Swiftie, as are some of our listeners. Uh, so she has till the end of breakfast to do this, by the way.
Hmm.
Again, kind of thought. Well, no, I was going to say don't bother doing it, but if she really thinks she's in trouble and she needs
Yeah.
that reward, sure. If if I didn't think I had any attention on me, I also just wouldn't have tried this. But
Right.
she must realize, well, especially after the dinner last night, Harry brought her up, and then Say
Yeah.
Young said she suspected it. She must realize, oh, I could have a problem here.
Yeah.
It's it's quite it's tricky. I'd struggle with this. Like, it's a lot
No,
of pressure.
sorry, it's tricky. Wasn't one of the songs. That's a different. That's a Run DMC song. That was
Right.
not one that was listed.
Um, My next note is about Phil. Phil has now decided that Sei Young is the millionaire because of her this plan that she had in the trophy room to, name people who they're not suspicious of and just leave one person that they are suspicious of.
Hmm.
He thinks that that was connected to her secret agenda. He thinks maybe the number of people who were, it's quite convoluted, the number of people in the room with her that she could get people to name would then equal the number of extra
Right,
votes that
right.
she earned at elimination. Like, it's a bit much. And this ends up being actually quite a big part of the episode. This attention on Sei Young and Phil's
Hmm.
obsession that she must be the millionaire. Uh, Sei Young suggests that they all now admit who they voted for, and Sydney refuses to do this. Um, yeah. I
Yeah,
don't know what you think. Like, uh,
yeah. I mean, it, I understand it. Like, no, we're not going to do that, and then, which, it is a secret vote for a reason. So let's keep it a secret vote, at least for the first one.
yeah.
Um,
I think if, yeah, it's difficult. Like, I would be annoyed if someone else suggested that. But then if everyone else does it, and you're the only
if
one that
Yeah,
doesn't, but
if everyone else was doing it, fine. But Sydney was very vocal pretty quickly.
yeah,
So,
yeah. Uh,
which I think describes her overall. Very vocal pretty quickly.
yeah. We see Lauren, going around the table
Hmm.
using her song titles, and yeah, she does it. She pulls off the secret agenda at the table. We've got Sei Young talking again about the importance of friendships and likability.
Hmm.
Meanwhile, Phil starts to spread his Sei Young theory to some of the other guys as well. Do you have anything else before the mission?
Nope.
Okay, mission is we're rattling through. We've got 3 episodes to get through.
Yeah.
It's clay pigeon shooting, and they're going to play in 2 teams. First team to hit 3 of the. Well, they're not. I don't. Why do they call it clay pigeon if it's discs? What? I don't. Did it used to be clay pigeons, and then they decided that
I
was
mean, they've
weird?
always called them pigeons and they've always been discs, as far as I know. I don't know.
Yeah,
Maybe before the days that they actually could shoot a disc out of a cannon, or, I mean, not a cannon, but, whatever it is that, who knows? Maybe someone made real pigeons that you had
yeah.
to shoot. But,
Maybe it just opened up a box and pigeon.
not, I
Yeah.
mean, yes, they do that, but, the clay ones, I'm not sure about. So,
Yeah. So whoever hits 3 first will win access
mhm.
to the trophy room. Uh, Chris, David, you can help me here. Chris reckons that people from the South and the Midwest will be best at this because they use guns. Is that accurate? Is
I
that?
could be. I mean, it's a very big generalization, I
Yeah,
think. Um, it's but
yeah,
sure, if you're going to go with anything, then go with anything. And,
yeah,
and then meanwhile, Lydia is like, well, I care more about who I trust than who can actually shoot.
yeah.
Uh, so,
I don't have too many notes on the mission
mhm.
other than it's funny who does well and who doesn't. Some people have never shot a gun before,
Yes.
are amazing at it. And then we've got Sam, the cop, who misses. I mean,
And
I did wonder if she did it deliberately.
I don't think so. I think that probably shooting this particular type of shotgun is different than like shooting a police
Yeah.
shotgun, and so it might almost be better if you've never handled or you're not used to shooting a
Mm.
gun, because then you're not set into any other ways. You can
Yeah, I
just kind of
guess.
point and shoot,
Yeah.
and
Although I could do this 50 times and I swear I would not hit one of those things. I don't think I would fare very well in this at all. By the end of it, the winning team are Chris, Kyle, Jamie, Sydney, Lauren, and Sam.
thanks to Jamie hitting twice.
Yes. And again, and Jamie is, I think, one of the ones who had never done this before. Pretty impressive. Maybe Jamie has a secret that she's not telling us. Maybe we're going to find
Oh,
that out later.
she's a secret
She-
Olympic marksman.
She's an assassin.
Yes.
My secret is I kill people. Uh,
It would be wise for her not to admit that on television.
yeah. Um, Maybe she's an actress and she played an assassin once. Um,
Mm.
Back at the hotel, we've got Lauren asking Sydney about her suspicions. And Sydney, like Phil, thinks the same that the millionaire having three votes, three extra
Hmm.
votes, or two extra votes, was significant. And so their secret agenda was something to do with the number three, three
Yeah,
things
I
happening.
don't think it's a coincidence because we find out later how much Sydney and Phil are
They're really
connected.
close. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Even they must be incredibly close because of what ended up happening.
Hmm.
And yeah, I just didn't. I picked up on it a little bit. Like there's a, I think it's actually the next episode. They're hugging and they're buddies, but yeah, they obviously get on really well and spend a lot of
Yeah.
time sharing theories and talking to each other. Lauren decides that she may have to target Sei Young because she sees, well, Sei Young's getting some attention from other
Right.
people. Cut to Sei Young picking up every object in the building to examine it. Like, I don't know what she's doing.
I
Everyone
don't know.
else is
Does she
like,
think this is Survivor and there's a hidden immunity idol under there? I don't know. It's just really weird and suspicious.
yeah,
Like, and you just can't do really weird and suspicious stuff in a game like this because
yeah,
people will be like, "Oh, maybe it's her agenda to flip every book over, or
yeah.
maybe it's her." You just can't do that.
I mean, I kind of get, I guess, in the Traitors, they have the secret bookshelf and there's the book that
Right.
open. Maybe but do it when no one's around. Like, yeah, it just sort of draws attention to yourself.
Yeah.
Like we saw with Parry. They saw him doing something they thought was a bit strange and they
Yeah.
eliminated him. So, yeah, seems not wise. Uh, the trophy room is what I have next, unless you have anything else before we
Well, just
get
that
there.
Sam tells the group heading over there that she doesn't want to say I have come to the conclusion through my cop ways. So
Mm.
she's like, well, I was meditating and it came to
Yeah,
me
yeah,
that Lauren is a big suspect. And then Chris says she could be hiding in plain sight. And Se Young says she has never come up with a strategy, quote, not a single time. Okay, first of all, there's been one vote.
yeah.
Second of all, just before that vote, she was the one who pointed to
To
Harry.
Harry, yeah, yeah. I was
I,
confused by it
I,
too.
I'm like, what? And then she repeats this later too. And it's like, what is going on here? But
Yeah,
as we find out later, maybe Se Young has a bit of a memory issue.
yeah. Of course. Uh, yeah. Where was I sitting? I don't know. It's too hard. In the trophy room, then Peter makes the group decide who's going to receive today's clue, as seems to
Mhm.
be the format. They choose Chris, and the others have to leave.
Yeah, which I
Chris,
thought is funny. It's not, after the first one, it was like they all had to do something.
yeah, yeah,
The second one, they all show up. They're like, it's going to be Chris. He's like, bye. Well,
yeah,
okay. Why'd we bother to come then?
yeah. Kind of had the same thought. If only one person gets to do something,
Right.
why have six people win the mission if most of them don't actually get anything from it?
I mean,
I
they get
guess
to vote,
guess they get to
but
be part of the
that
decision
could have been
making.
done before they wander over to the trophy room. So,
Yeah, yeah. So they pick Chris, off they go, and Chris talks to Peter. He says he thinks that Lauren is the millionaire, and then he gets his clue. The clue is that the millionaire carried out their secret agenda at breakfast the day before. So yeah, this is where I thought,
mhm.
oh, okay, it's a different day. I'm mixing up the time here. He said it was while everybody was there, and it was a smash hit. Uh, and Chris decides that he'll tell everybody the truth and watch them and see if anybody
Mhm.
reacts strangely to that. Maybe there'll be some sort of clue in their behavior. He does, and they deliberate over what this must mean. What is smash hit? Is it, and see, they jump to the idea of music pretty quickly.
Yeah.
Someone suggests maybe someone broke something and it smashed.
Well, Lauren suggested that. She's like, oh, it could be breaking dishes. Good
Yeah.
one, Lauren, and they're like, no, that didn't happen. And then yeah, Chris brings up what did everybody eat for breakfast? Someone's like, maybe smashed
Smashed up.
avocados.
Yeah.
And so that's when, yes, Chris suggests they all move to where they sat for breakfast to figure it out. And Se Young can't remember where she sat for breakfast. And so Phil just blows up.
Yeah,
Uh,
he is infuriated.
he's like, "You have such a great memory. You can remember this, but you can't remember where you sat for breakfast." And so she starts crying and says she was in a mood and she didn't pay attention, and the others aren't buying it, and it just doesn't look good. But this is another thing, like I said about Sam earlier. Would she really do this if she were the millionaire? Why would she draw this much attention? She would just go over and sit down and see what happens.
Yeah,
Why?
yeah,
There's no way she that the secret millionaire would draw this much attention to themselves for no reason.
yeah. I mean, unless she was paranoid that oh, if I sit there, they're gonna figure it out. But yeah,
But yeah,
why would
she's
they?
this great gamer. Their own argument works against her. Oh, you're this great gamer, but you can't remember. Well, okay, but if she's this great gamer, she wouldn't pull a dumb stunt like this either.
Yeah. The whole scene is wild. She just this meltdown.
And then yeah,
Phil's
Phil
I
calls her super manipulative and walks out, and it's just
yeah.
like, damn.
Yeah, I guess it's an example of what we see in reality shows that there's so
Yeah,
much pressure and the people just break down over what seems like trivial things. Of course, Lauren is quite happy about this.
yeah.
She's enjoying that there's a distraction away from her, so this is good for her. And for the moment it doesn't last. It seems like they've maybe moved on a bit from the music discussion, so she's quite happy about that. They end up some of them kind of
Yeah.
end up figuring it out though. Um, I'm straight to the elimination is what I have next.
Well, dinner, yeah, dinner, which leads to the
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Chris is Chris starts telling us that he is going for Lauren. I think this is before they get there, maybe. Lauren wants to go for Sei Young. She seems like she's the obvious target. And Kyle suspects Phil because of the confrontation with Sei Young.
right.
So maybe he's the one that's doing something strange. So they arrive at dinner, they're eating, and yeah, Kyle brings up Phil's name. Phil then just comes for Sei Young again. He also explains his theory about the
Right.
millionaire got others in episode one in the trophy room to vote for people in the trophy room, and I this theory doesn't make sense to me because I don't understand how. Well, it seems strange that the millionaire would be set that agenda in the morning if their place in the trophy room wasn't guaranteed. Like, how can they carry out that agenda if they didn't then win the mission and get in the trophy room? So I feel like they wouldn't set the millionaire that something that they couldn't possibly, like there was the huge chance that they just wouldn't get to carry out.
I
So
mean, but the thing is, he doesn't know when the agenda is set yet.
I guess, yeah, he's obviously decided. Well,
Right.
the agenda must have been set after the mission.
Right.
It's just too many pieces in place. It's too niche a theory, I think. It's too specific.
Yeah.
Se Young just starts crying again. Um, and Phil says, "Well, I'm assuming you think it's me." And Se Young, sobbing, goes, "I actually think it's Lauren."
Yeah.
It
Yeah, and
seems like
again, she brings up the same thing she brought up earlier. She doesn't bring up strategies or ideas, and it's like I don't understand why Lauren doesn't stand up and say, yeah, I did," unless she did say that and we just didn't see it because it didn't
maybe,
matter. But um,
yeah.
yeah,
That's my general uh observation. And again, maybe it's been edited this way, but it
hmm
seems so often that Lauren Lauren just doesn't seem to defend herself much. There's just sort of lots of shots of her looking a bit confused,
yeah,
but not really saying anything. Like I think she needs to get a bit more vocal. She's kind of just sort of frowns and even sort of nods sometimes when
hmm
people are talking about her. I don't think that's a great defense.
no,
Um, so yeah, she say Young accuses Lauren. Chris says that he says this weird thing. He says he came in wanting to vote for Lauren too, implying that now he's changed his mind. I thought that's what he meant.
yeah,
Uh, Paul asks him about the clue that he was given, and yeah, they come back to the smash hit, the idea of music,
hmm
and then I think Jamie says she keeps using this phrase. It's really funny. She says something is coming up in her spirit. Um, she says, "In my spirit, something is telling me that someone was using song lyrics in conversation." And she's right. I
She's
just
right.
love
And someone
her
else
phrasing.
concurs
Is
about it.
Yeah,
And
Lydia
yeah,
agrees. She's like,
yeah,
"Yeah, someone did
yeah.
do
And
that."
then, Sam says her gut is telling her Lauren. Well, yeah, her gut always tells her Lauren. Um, and Lauren says she's taken aback and
Yeah,
still thinks it's Say Young.
yeah, yeah.
Uh, so,
Um, yeah, and again, I noticed that Lauren
mhm.
is not great at defending herself, I don't think. So it's time to vote. They cast their votes in secret, of course. And again, there's no vote count. Peter just
Right.
announces, he just picks out a key and tells them who has the most votes.
Hmm.
I guess that's just the format. That's just this way the
Yeah.
show's going to work unless they flip it up at some point. Because yeah, like obviously now I know in Survivor it's a secret vote, but then the host pulls out all the
Right.
votes and they see how many there were. We don't get any of that. So this time they have chosen Sei Young as the millionaire. She opens the box, it's empty, they're stunned. We've got Lauren looks a bit upset, she's crying. Obviously, Sei Young is crying again.
Yes.
But she has a funny last little moment where she says she's glad to go home and watch Bridgerton. Uh, of course, Netflix keep that in. It's a Netflix show.
Well,
It's well done, Sei Young. Uh,
yeah. I mean, I felt bad for Sei Young since she was obviously the gamiest gamer there, and those are often the people I like. But unfortunately for her, she was obviously the gamiest gamer there. Um, you know, she had also said earlier that her goal should be to stay in the game by being social and stuff, and then she did the bunch of strange things that we talked about. So,
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah, she just, her emotions totally overwhelmed her. It just ruined
yes,
her game, just got in the way. Um, I guess it's not her fault that she was accused of faking it, but the meltdown is just so much. It just didn't
yeah,
go down well. And maybe she can't help it, but then maybe this isn't the show for her.
right,
So she has her interview, a little clip before she leaves. She realizes maybe she was throwing out too many theories and ideas, and that made her look suspicious. She says, "I'm not suspicious. I'm just weird and emotional."
yeah,
So at least she's self-aware. So,
right, right,
so yeah, I still like her.
yeah,
Um, We've got Lauren. Lauren's upset but relieved, that at least she escaped another elimination. And she's telling us again that being the millionaire has been eating her alive. And she's glad now that she's going to get to change that because she carried out her secret agenda. Um, and again, at this point, I didn't know that. I was still a bit confused about why she was so happy about it. But
right. And then Peter goes ahead and announces it, and boom. Okay, now we know. Um, and well, now they know, but we know why she was happy about it.
yeah,
Um, and then we see the voting, which surprises the heck
yes.
out of me and makes me go rewind to see if I missed the voting and to send you a message to say, hey, was there voting that I missed? Um, but yeah, I mean, she didn't, well, I guess she lost, what is it, 5-3 to 2-1.
Yeah, yeah. So
But
split.
Sam voted for Jamie.
Yes, this is my weird thing that I don't understand. She's
No, 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 sorry. Jamie
for
voted for Sam.
and
Sam
Sam
voted for
voted for
Phil.
Phil. Yeah, I was
And
so surprised.
it's like
I mean, yeah, up
I
until this point, all we've seen is her saying, "I'm convinced it's Lauren, it's
right.
Lauren, it's Lauren," and then
And
doesn't
we're
vote for her.
shown we're supposed to believe that Sam is this great reader of people because of this. But when it comes time to put her money where her mouth is, she votes Jamie. Now, I guess I'm sorry, she votes Phil.
Phil, yeah,
Um I, she she could have been purposely not voting for Lauren because it's better to keep in the person you know is the millionaire so you don't have to worry about looking for clues later like the trader angel strategy.
yeah, yeah,
I don't think it works that way in this game. There's because the millionaire doesn't get to protect you the way that the trader gets to not murder you.
yeah.
That's the reason to play the trader's angel strategy. I don't think it works here, so I don't understand it.
Yeah, I had the same. I had yeah, two theories. One is what you've just said. Is
Hmm.
she actively trying to keep Lauren in the game? But then you would think her strategy is befriend Lauren and be really close to her, and I don't think we see that. I don't think she's
No.
trying to get close to Lauren. All I can think is that the confrontation at the round table between Phil and Se Young stood out so much that it suddenly at the last minute freaked her out and made her think what Phil was acting so strangely.
Hmm.
It suddenly changed her mind, and maybe she thought other people were going to do the same.
Yeah.
And she was so convinced that it wasn't Se Young, she thought, well, it has to be fit. So I think it was just a last minute change of heart, perhaps.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Uh, Sam, if you're listening to the podcast, get in touch. Tell us
Yeah.
why did you vote for Phil? Um, Maybe she was seeing
I
into the
mean,
future and she knew what was coming in the next
that's right.
episode.
I mean, the other possibility, and this is again something I'll discuss later, is that as much as we've seen confessionals about how sure she is, she could have also had confessionals that she was thinking it could be Phil,
Phil,
and we
yeah,
just
could
weren't
be.
shown them.
Yeah, could be. Lauren is very worried about having to keep information from everyone going forward. She says, I don't think I can do it anymore. If I keep the
Mhm.
lies going at this point, that'll break me. So I think I know what's going to happen.
Yes, and I'm
Uh,
thinking this wasn't the game for you then, perhaps, but okay.
yeah. And she is in the kitchen with everybody and tells them, I can't play the game like I've had to play the game anymore. And the episode ends,
Hmm.
I think, oh, she's gonna tell them. And
Yes,
yes, on we
she
go.
tells them and
Episode
cries.
3. She tells them it was me. And a few of them are like, ah, yes, I knew.
Well, and,
Sam's nodding.
and yeah, and Jamie and Corey are rolling their eyes at her crying, and I don't exactly blame them.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah,
Like,
there's a
oh,
lot a
it was
lot
so
going on
hard for
here.
you to be lying to us. Oh, we feel so bad for you.
Um, well, I have mixed feelings on Jamie and Corey actually. They Well, first of all, Sam is feels very vindicated. She's saying, "I knew it." But then again, I thought, well, why didn't you vote for her? Why did you just
Yeah,
vote for
right.
Phil?
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
Lauren's
like
having a
it's
breakdown.
just like people on the traders, they'll vote for someone to go out and then they'll stand up and say, "I'm a faithful." I knew
I
it.
knew it. Yeah,
It's
yeah,
like, well, then why did you vote for them?
yeah. I mean, I guess in the
In
traitors you
that
can
case,
say,
yes,
well, I just went with everyone else because I had
right.
to, but here you don't have to do that. It's a secret vote. Uh, I did laugh at Jamie saying that she just wanted to enjoy her pear and whipped cream, and now she's
Yes.
having to listen to this. Um, but they seem annoyed. They, they're annoyed. If they're annoyed that she's crying and getting emotional, then yeah, fine.
Hmm.
But they seem annoyed that she's been lying, and they get annoyed as the episode goes on that she lied to them, and I don't know why they're. Yeah, this really
It's
bothers
it's
me.
weird because at some points they'll say things, not necessarily right here, but later too. Well, you were lying as part of the game. And it seems almost like they're defending her. Like, yes, she was lying as part of the game. But then they're still mad at her. I
Yeah.
think it's because she's playing this holier than thou routine a little
Mm.
bit, where it's like, well, I was lying. It was so hard on me. And you should just feel bad for me because I had to lie. And they're all just like, get over it. We're done with you. We're over you. And on top of that, first of all, she's spilling some secrets. And as she's doing it, she realizes what I'm already thinking, which is she's giving away her tells.
Yeah.
And yes, she won't be the millionaire right now, but it could come back at some point. Well, it can't now, but it will, in theory it could. And she just annoys some of them because they are like, oh, well, now you have an advantage over us. And in this case, it's similar to the traders where you may know someone is probably a faithful, but they're a bad faithful
Mm.
and need to go. So, some of these people are already thinking, oh, okay, she's not the millionaire, but maybe she needs to go anyway.
Yeah.
But the thing is where she starts hiding information too. I think she really loses everybody
Yeah.
when she's like, I want to be honest with you, but I have to keep some information for myself. Okay, then
Yeah,
then stop freaking crying about it.
yeah. I, and maybe I'm jumping ahead, but I just this is like her fatal flaw. Like I think this is the
Yes.
thing that just kills her off. She tells them about the song titles, but not the first mission, which was the
Yeah, not the
hugs.
hugging.
And she's really emotional about having to lie this whole time, but she's not emotional enough to not still try and be a little
Right.
bit strategic. But also,
Right.
it's just a bad idea to say, "Oh, I'm not gonna. I do have other information, but I'm not going to tell you it." I think she should have lied. I think I know she doesn't
Yeah.
want to lie and she's upset. She should have just made up a secret. Either just tell them the truth,
Yeah.
so you don't have to lie anymore and be upset about it, or like prepare a lie, like make up a fake secret agenda that you had to do,
Yeah. I
and
had to
keep the
make sure
secret.
people didn't hold hands, you know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
think of something else that happened or that you did and use that. So it just is a bad idea to tell everybody, I know something that you don't know, and I'm not going to tell you.
Right.
It just makes her a target.
Yeah.
And I get doing that, but don't tell everybody
I just don't think it even occurred to her
that
at
they might
all.
still vote for her.
Right. I
Yeah,
think in her mind, I am obviously not the millionaire. Therefore, people will obviously not vote for me.
yeah,
Not thinking, as I just said, there sometimes you want to vote out a bad faithful,
yeah, yeah.
you know?
So the next segment is breakfast. I guess the next day.
Which, by the way, their breakfasts are much better than the traders'
Yes.
breakfasts.
Yeah, looks very
All of
nice.
their
Nice
meals
catering.
really are.
Yeah.
So,
Um, yeah, I guess it plays into the whole. It's kind of like it's like White Lotus, the reality show. It's supposed to be this sort of very exclusive, expensive
mm-hmm.
resort they're staying at, and it does look great on screen. Uh, Lauren is now the sage of the group. I think she thinks she's giving advice to everybody about what to pay attention to, and uh, the thing is, she
Yeah.
just then gets it all so wrong. Like she goes on to like completely misread Sydney.
Mm-hmm.
Um, before
Which,
that,
I mean, I think that it is a motivational misread of Sydney, because Sydney has called her out.
yeah,
And so therefore she's like, oh, well, now I think Sydney is the millionaire. And it's like, no, you only think that because you're mad at her because she called you out.
yeah, it's yes, sort of quite convenient for her to read things that way. Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And also Lauren's like, oh, I noticed that certain ideas steamrolled and people need to listen to other ideas. Yeah, good luck on that in a game like this. If you don't think that ideas are going to steamroll, that's what always happens.
yeah.
Um,
Um, they yeah after a bit of discussion and Sydney being really pissed and doesn't trust Lauren now,
mhm.
they return to the rooms because they're going to find out who the new millionaire is, which again apparently is assigned at random. And it turns out that this time it is Phil, who
Mhm.
does not take it well. He want again. He like I think it was Chris in the first episode
Yeah.
who wanted to wait. He didn't want. He thought it's better to have it later in the game, which probably is wise. I think that's like the way that you want it to play out.
Mhm.
He receives a secret agenda from Peter, and it is to get three people to answer no to the question, do you believe me? The reward is you'll get to cancel three votes tonight, but this time there is a penalty if you don't carry out the
Right.
secret agenda, and that is that you have one vote against you at the elimination.
Yeah,
So,
I was thinking the same thing you said earlier. Oh, interesting that they put a penalty on it now. But if you find yourself in a situation where you need to cancel out three votes,
hmm.
you're probably doomed. And, I mean, so is it really worth fighting for unless you are so close that you can't afford to start with one vote against you also?
Yeah,
Um, I just, yeah, I don't think that, plus people are going to talk about who they think could be the millionaire. and a swing of 3 votes would be highly suspicious at that
Mm,
moment. Like,
yeah.
hey, wait, I thought these 6 people were all voting for them, but they didn't win, even though that's, they didn't go, even though that's a clear majority. It's like, how did that happen?
Yeah. I yeah, so I think that it does work better to have a penalty, but I still thought I think Phil does the right thing by just not attempting it. I think
Hmm.
because it's and it's also quite a tricky one to carry out. Like ask
Yeah,
people, do you believe me? And they have to say no to it. Like I think it's tough to get
yeah.
that into a conversation. I just wouldn't have attempted it either. I would have
No,
taken my
I
chances.
agreed. I agree with that.
Next up, we've got, I think, lunch. I can't tell if it's
Hmm.
lunch or breakfast. A meal on the beach. And Lauren is focusing on Sydney. She thinks that, yeah, this is where she's saying that Sydney is behaving like she behaved after she found out she was the millionaire,
Right.
being very sort of quiet, reserved. She talks later about her breathe having being short of breath, which obviously is, I mean, it's obviously made up or exaggerated because Sydney isn't the millionaire.
Right.
So maybe that's just how she breathes.
Yeah, it goes back to trying to read people, and again, there's a motivation behind it here. I
Yeah,
mean, it is an unconscious motivation on Lauren's part. I don't think Lauren was making this stuff up, but if you're focused on one person, you can always find things about them
yeah,
that you think are suspicious, even if there's no suspicion there. We've seen that in how many seasons of The Traitors?
yeah, yeah. Yeah, so there's a phrase I'm looking for, a sort of self-confirming bias or something like
Yeah,
that. Yeah.
yeah,
Uh, we've also got Corey who keeps getting irritated that Lauren won't tell them about what her first secret agenda
yes,
was. Um, he he says that, I mean, even though I think Lauren has done the wrong thing, he can't understand what she's getting out of it. And I sort of think, well, surely, like he's so mad. He's like, why
right,
wouldn't she tell us? And I think, well, you can figure out why she's not telling you. Like she wants, if she knows
yeah,
what the secret agendas are, then she's got a better idea of what future secret agendas might look like. So I don't think it's difficult to understand why she's doing it. I just don't think it was wise. But
right, right.
he just I don't know. He can't figure out what her motivation is.
Yeah, and then Lauren, I'm sorry, Sydney says she's a dangerous player, and then Lauren objects to the word dangerous, and so Sydney's like, okay, you're a smart player. Either way, same
Yeah,
thing.
yeah. Either way, you're not good for the
Hmm.
group. Cara seems quite observant, actually. I mean, I guess that maybe it's clever editing. Maybe she's naming 20 people, but no, okay, there's not 20 people there. Maybe she's naming 5 people. She notices that Phil is perhaps behaving a bit differently.
Hmm.
She thinks he's a bit more quiet and observant than he was yesterday. After he was with Se Young, he was so aggressively coming after her. Um, Although perhaps you could blame it on the fact that, well, then Se Young went home and he looks like an
Yeah,
idiot, so
yeah,
maybe he wants to just not say so much now.
yeah,
But she is onto the truth. Maybe it's accidental, don't know.
right.
It's time for the mission this episode. The mission involves them all sitting at a table and they have these silver cloches. And Peter, it's like,
Cloches?
yeah, cloche. Like, yeah.
I've never heard that word in my life.
Oh, yes. What would you call that thing?
I don't know. I truly don't know. A covered dish. That's the
Oh,
only thing I would call it. I
okay. Well, it's called a cloche. I've taught you a
Okay.
fancy word. Hey. Uh,
It would be
Pete
really funny if this is your lie and you literally just made up a
made up a
word
word.
out of nowhere.
Uh,
It's like on Joe Million, not Joe Million, or Joe
Joe
Schmo
Schmo.
show. Yeah, where one guy was like, I'm a YouTuber, splonk. I do things and then I yell splonk. It's like I'm a prankster and, totally made up,
Oh.
that they just made up a word, splonk, to, be this guy's catchphrase.
Did people believe him?
I mean, there's only one person that needed to believe
Oh.
him. And yes, he appeared to. So,
Oh wow, there you go. I might start
yeah.
using that at the end of this episode. Uh, so Peter tells them that there will be some new friends at the table. So I kind of see what's coming. There's going to be some sort of creepy crawly or
Well,
something.
I thought it was going to be an old Survivor thing where they were going to have to like eat bugs or
Yeah,
something like
yeah,
that.
that's what I thought.
I didn't think
Uh,
they were going to have to put stuff away, you know.
yeah, I mean, I was quite relieved. Like I've said
Well,
this
especially when they opened the rat, the first one, I was like, okay, well, they're not going to eat a live rat, so I'm
no,
pretty sure that I was wrong about that part.
yeah, it's fairly tame. They
Yes.
open up the cloches,
Hmm.
and there's a yeah. The first one's a rat. I think rats are. I had pet rats when I was growing up. They're really sweet. Like I'd be quite happy with this. I mean, maybe not. There's a cockroach next. I'm not like loving
Yeah.
that, but again, they don't have to eat them.
Right.
There's a. I didn't write down the proper names of all of them. There's
A
so it's a
Pac-Man
hissing
frog,
cockroach, a Pac-Man frog.
an
Uh,
African hedgehog, and
yes.
barley python.
Okay. Hedgehog also very cute.
Yes, the
Um,
hedgehog was cute. I'm glad they didn't have to eat the hedgehog.
yeah, yeah.
They did eat hedgehogs in what show was it? Was it? I can't remember. I think it was something they were in a frozen wilderness,
Oh my God.
and I believe that they did kill and eat hedgehogs because they had
Oh.
no other food.
Oh, that's horrible. Yeah, I'm happy
So
that's not what's happening here.
yes,
It's yeah, they all they have to do is solve some puzzles and pick up the animals. Hooray! So I still feel a bit bad for the rat and the hedgehog, but hopefully it was over quickly. They solve these pictograms. They have to
well, you,
then
you forgot how irrationally, deathly afraid of snakes
oh yeah,
Sydney is,
Sydney's yeah, she's
which
very upset.
Sid Lauren says it's a little ironic because
She
she
may
might
be
be
a
a snake.
snake. Yes.
Um, but yeah, the pictograms were so easy.
Yeah.
It
It
was like
was
boom, boom,
yeah.
boom. I mean, yeah, I mean, you want to give the times. It was not. It did not take very long.
No, the even the team that lost did it in like a minute and a half or something
Yeah.
like that. So I mean, I guess it was more a test of who can pick up the bug and not
Hmm.
be too scared of it and put it in the right thing. It wasn't really about problem solving. And in the end, the winning team they did it in something like 52 seconds, something like that.
54. Yeah.
54.
Yes,
Uh,
but Sydney overcame her fear of snakes, which to me, I was like, the snake was in a ball. It never came out of the ball.
yeah.
So it means it was probably fairly cold for a snake. And it's not like it was squirming all over the place or hanging there or anything like that. You had to pick it up and put it somewhere. I mean, it might as well been, who knows? And I mean, yeah, way back a number of years ago, my house was hit by a tornado and we were cleaning up afterwards.
Hmm.
And my wife is cleaning up the yard and she picks up and walks over and she's like, "Oh, some kid lost their toy snake." You see where this is going. And I was like, "That is not a toy snake. That is a dead
Oh,
snake."
oh wow. Okay.
It got killed
Uh,
by the tornado. And she was like,
Yeah, that's I know that I'm pretty sure you've told me the tornado story before, so I know that's not your lie. Maybe you're lying about the snake. We'll see. Um, so joining Sydney, overcoming her fear of the snake, is Lauren, Phil, Corey, and Kyle. Next up, we have more food. We're at another meal, and Lydia
it
is
really
at
seems like it's like meal, a little time together, confessional time, and time alone. Meal, time alone.
yeah.
Meal. So we only see them when they're eating. It's like they're all going to gain 20 pounds on the show, you know?
Yeah.
Um, and then the one time we see them together, they're like out skipping. The guys go and skip
Mm,
stones. And immediately Lydia is like, "Oh, who suggested
yeah.
skipping stones? It may have been a task." And the funny thing is, it's Phil, but it was just, we know it's just
Yeah.
coincidence. And Chris is like, "Well, if you put a group of guys together, they're going to skip stones." And I'm like, I've been in lots of groups of guys. I mean, okay, maybe we've skipped stones occasionally, but then again, I've never just been sitting around in a house with nothing else to do. So
Yeah, that's true. Yes, I'd forgotten about the stones earlier, but yeah,
yeah,
Lydia brings it up. Yeah, right person, wrong reasoning,
yeah.
just a coincidence. And they discuss who will be the person to receive the clue in the trophy room. It kind of comes down to well, it doesn't come down to it. There's a Sydney versus Lauren
Hmm.
situation. Sydney saying, well, I've been 3 times and it's not been me yet, or this will be my third time, and I faced my fear of the python, big deal. And Lauren's like, well, it should be me. I'm the only person that you know is definitely not the millionaire right now, so I'm kind of impartial. I've got no reason to lie, which is not really
Yeah,
true.
right. And that's the thing. There's no reason to lie. And that face that you made is the same face that Sydney makes. And then Sam's like, well, you don't have to be making a face. And said, you looked over there, and Sydney's like, I can look around if I want to.
Yeah.
Um, and yeah, she tells Lauren, you already have a lot of advantages the others don't have. And then Jamie jumps in again and is like, we know you've been lying for 2 days, so no way. I mean, the thing is, yes, it is part of the game, but Lauren just keeps walking into it. Like, don't say I have no reason to lie. You've been lying.
Yeah.
You just stop putting the focus on yourself.
Mm. Yeah. Yeah, I think she should have. I don't think she should have said anything here, and she's also wrong. She
Yeah,
does. She still could benefit from this.
right.
But at the same time, Jamie, I am getting annoyed by Jamie being annoyed by Lauren. Like she's like you. She just seems so annoyed that Lauren was lying, and I'm like, well, that's
I
the
think she's
this.
mostly annoyed at Lauren's behavior and then just loops in the various other things that she's
Yeah,
done. It's kind of like, um, if there's someone who annoys you in general, then other things about them
yeah,
which wouldn't annoy you about from other people, annoys you about that person too.
yeah, sure. Of course, the whole time Phil is quite happy about this. Like
Yes.
Lauren was happy in the previous episode
Mm-hmm.
when Phil and Se Young were going at one another. So he just sort of lets this play out. If there's tension between other people, that's great. So in the trophy room, they decide to choose. They end up choosing Corey, and it's funny because Lauren is like the first person to nominate him, even though she wanted it to be her. Also because Corey's been quite rude about her. Like I wondered if she was trying to win his favor. Um, I just thought it was funny. Yeah,
Yeah.
earlier he was really mad at her, and she's the first one to be like, well,
Mm-hmm.
I trust Corey. He's a great guy. So I don't know if she was trying to get on his good side. They all pick Corey and they leave. Corey's left. Peter tells Corey that the millionaire, well, tells him two things. A, didn't attempt the secret agenda
Mm-hmm.
today, and B, was not chased by the hound in the first mission. So Corey kind of has this dilemma because he wasn't chased by the hound in the first mission. So is it going to throw suspicion on him? And he says he's only lied a couple of times in his life, and it didn't. I thought, yeah, right. Um, he talks. I don't know. I get a little bit annoyed by Corey in this episode. He's talking like, oh, he's gonna win. He wants to win this game without ever having to lie. And I just wrote get a grip.
Yeah.
He's like,
Yeah.
I'm tempted to not tell the truth. And I'm like, it's the secret millionaire. Like, lie if you want to lie. It's no big deal.
Well, and the other thing is, if he tells the truth, it should be pretty obvious it's not him because otherwise he would have lied.
Yeah,
I mean, people could suspect him of a double
yeah,
bluff, but it
yeah,
just seems unlikely for
yeah,
something like this. Just tell the truth.
yeah. And he does. He comes back to the
Yeah.
group, tells them about the secret agenda, and reluctantly tells them the clue
Mm-hmm.
about the hound and the mission. So the people who weren't chased by the dog were Corey, Lauren, who they can discount for now, and the others are Lydia, Sydney, Phil, Cara, and Sam.
Yeah. So they talked about, like you said, who wasn't chased. And Chris points out, hey, he told us this to his own detriment. So, yes, I was right. They believe him because he told the truth in
Yeah,
this case. And so then, these groups split up, and Lauren says she's playing for the team now and wants to be helpful. And I'm like, really? You want to be helpful? Then how about sharing the rest of your information if you're playing for the team? And
yeah,
I can't believe nobody says that to her. Um, and she thinks Sydney is the millionaire based on body language reads. And I'm just like, yeah, that's what it's based on. It's not based on her, you know, coming after you or anything like that. And of course, yeah. And then, of course, Sydney tells the other group, let's vote out Lauren because she's a dangerous player. And everyone seems to agree, except Sam says there's no way she would do that. I don't think it's a terrible idea. I mean, like I said, voting out a faithful can be a good idea in the traders.
Hmm.
Voting out Lauren, if she's not one of your people, if you're in an alliance and she's not one of your people and she's coming after you, yeah, I don't think it's a bad idea to vote her out.
Yeah, yeah. And you said this earlier, but I think Lauren just hadn't conceived of this at all.
Right.
She just assumed, no, elimination. You eliminate who you think the millionaire is, and that's
Well,
all
and
there is
I
to it.
I was kind of mildly spoiled on the outcome of, well, I guess totally spoiled on the outcome of this because a few people, I had not watched episode 3 at the same time I watched episodes 1 and 2. And
Hmm.
I posted some videos from 1 and 2, and some people, one person posted a comment that said episode 3 spoiler colon. So I did not read the rest of that comment, but someone else said, voting out the person who they know is not the millionaire, so stupid, or words to that effect. And I was like, thanks.
Yeah,
I mean, it's my own. I won't say it's my own fault. It's sort of my own fault. I posted the videos. All 3 episodes were out there. Hey, these are the risks you run when you go on social media.
yeah,
So I'm not blaming anyone for saying that, though I do appreciate the person who put, episode 3 spoiler coming.
yeah,
But yeah, so I did see this coming probably. They didn't specifically say it. So as it was happening, I was like, well, I guess it's possible they just could be commenting on, oh, it would be a stupid idea to do that.
yeah,
Because later on, I sort of convinced myself that, oh, maybe the vote isn't going to go that way. No, I was spoiled. I was right.
yeah. So yeah, after we've got Sydney saying that,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, Lauren she's too smart, she's sneaky. By the way, maybe I'll come back to what I think of Lauren maybe at the end of the episode, and what happens to her. But outside, Chris also says that he wants to vote for Lauren tonight.
Yeah.
I think Jamie says she'll vote for her too, unless if she's got no good reason to suspect anyone
Right.
else, really, they'll just be ruthless and get rid of Lauren.
Which
Uh,
again is another good reason, because otherwise, you're if you don't know who it is, if you are not certain, if you are just guessing, then you're just going to get rid of a random person anyway.
yeah,
So if you're going to get rid of most likely a person who is not the millionaire, why not get rid of someone you don't like
yeah,
and who's never going to
who's
work
not?
with you and
Yeah,
is who, in fact, going to work against you? It
mhm,
really does make a lot of sense what they're saying.
yeah. We've got a bit of discussion of alliances, numbers.
Mm-hmm.
Sam, Kyle, and Kara are discussing this, and they want Sydney out. I, I assume because they are buying into what Lauren is saying, and they actually do think Sydney really could be the millionaire.
I think it's part of that. I also think Sydney plays hard. Sydney
Yeah,
is there to play hard. And I think the others are looking at that as somewhat obnoxious.
yeah. I
Um,
think they just don't
I
like
mean,
her very much.
kind of like when Sam talked about Sydney's reaction of making a face and stuff
Yeah,
like that. And um, I think that Lauren pushing these ideas helps them in that regard. But I really do think it comes down a lot to personality and alliances.
mhm,
And this is like a U.S. Big Brother season where it often breaks down into the two sides of the house,
yeah,
and that's what we've got here. We've got the two sides of the mansion or the
yeah.
hotel. This two sides of the stag. That's what we got.
Yes, exactly. Sam tries to tell Lauren the plan. Well, she does. She's like
Yeah,
deadly serious about it. She's saying, "Look at me, listen to me,"
yeah,
and is saying, "Look, Corey, Chris, Sydney, and Jamie are going to come for you.
hmm
So we need to go for Sydney, and we need to get Phil on side." And they talk to Phil about it, and this is where we're presented with They want us to think it's, oh, he's got this big dilemma. It probably actually isn't much of a dilemma actually for
Right.
Phil. He's bonded with Sydney. He's close with her. He's got to decide what way he thinks the vote's going to go and what's
Well,
going to serve him well, I guess.
the other funny thing is when they bring him in, Lauren is there. Well, you're not going to get an honest answer with Lauren sitting there.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, if you want to really find out how the vote's going to go, you bring him in and you ask him privately.
Yeah. Yeah.
And probably you just have one person who he's close to do it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so yeah, I think that was a flaw. I don't think it would have changed anything, but it was they could have known how the vote was going to go and perhaps change their own plans to make it, just make it unanimous on Lauren at that point rather
Mhm.
than drawing the line in the sand that they drew.
Yeah, that's right. So on to the elimination dinner then. Oh, there's this really funny clip of Lydia talking about Sydney,
Yes.
and it's the name of the episode. She says that Sydney is going to hell on a scholarship.
Yes.
I,
As soon as I saw the look on your face, I'm like, I know what line he's about to say here. Yes.
I've never heard this before, and it really made me laugh.
Yes. Sounds
Uh,
like it must be one of those Texas phrases.
Sydney's also got a kind of a funny line, but also get a little bit big-headed. She says, "I look like $1 million, but I'm not the millionaire." So
Yeah.
made me laugh too. So we have our dinner.
Well, wait. Now, did you notice the song that was playing as they were getting ready for dinner?
Oh no, I didn't. Is
The
it?
lyrics that were playing were "I've only got myself to blame." It was a woman singing, and they
Oh.
were mostly showing scenes of Sydney and Lauren as this song was playing. And I'm like, this is true for either of them. On the traders, they frequently have like slowed down cover versions of other songs. We've talked about that before. I don't think this was a cover of another song.
Hmm.
I it's possible. I Googled, like, I've only got myself to blame. I found three songs with similar names. There's like a Doris Day song,
Hmm.
like that. I did not play them side by side. I was going by memory, so I don't think it's any of those, but it is possible if they really were using the traders as an inspiration, or they could have done something that Survivor did a number of years ago, which is create a whole new song. Because like we're watching Survivor one season and all of a sudden there's a woman singing, "You'd better be ready," which was better sung than I just did. And we're all like, what the hell is this? And they tried that experiment for like one season, maybe two, and then they were like, no, we're going to go back to like the drums and
Yeah.
normal music that we use. But yes, I did laugh at this. I've only got myself to blame while showing the two people who truly only had themselves to blame for being targets.
Yes. I need to pay more attention to the music in the next episode and the lyrics. So at the dinner, we have Chris openly
Yeah.
saying that he's going to vote for Lauren tonight. He says she is disincentivized from finding the millionaire, which I,
It
I
actually
don't
makes
think
sense to me.
I didn't understand that.
So she can float until the $1 million switches again. If she believes, if people are like, well, we're never going to vote for her because we know she's not the millionaire,
Hmm.
why would she ever want to vote out the millionaire? She can float along for days and days knowing she's never going to catch a vote if they ascribe to this theory of hers that they shouldn't vote for her because they know she's not the millionaire. It's
Yeah.
okay. And it also means, from his perspective, there is more chance the vote goes against him because there's one less person to vote for.
Yeah, yeah.
So I do agree with his thinking. She is disincentivized to find the millionaire.
Okay. I sort of thought he meant this is not completely different, that she was disincentivized from helping the group find the millionaire.
Well, yeah.
I still think I think she just wants to win for herself more than for everybody else. Um, so I don't know. Yeah. I guess it's his choice of word. I thought she's
Yeah.
not completely disincentivized for the whole game. Maybe for
No,
now.
but for now,
Okay. Yeah.
it goes back to, okay, well, you may know who the traitor is, but you're going to wait till the end of the
Mm,
game when they bring you along, and
yeah.
then you're going to call them out, and then you're going to win the game.
Yeah.
Whereas in this case, yeah, I mean, not that I think a millionaire is going to last, 6 weeks or something like that, but 6 episodes.
Mm,
But yeah, she could wait and wait and wait till the end and then be like, ha, gotcha.
yeah.
And then there's only a couple people it can go to, and maybe she gets it back.
Yeah. I also think I think he's giving her too much credit though.
Oh, yeah, he's absolutely giving her too much credit.
Like
Um,
I think she is just sort of playing it on quite a surface
yeah,
level, and she probably will try and like with Sydney. Well, half with Sydney, kind of.
yeah.
I think she has convinced herself that Sydney might be the
Oh, yeah,
millionaire, and that's why she's going to vote for her.
yeah.
So
Chris is thinking at a much higher game level in the idea that Lauren would do this. But Lauren is to blame for that too, because she made it seem like she is playing at a higher game level.
yeah,
She isn't,
this
but
yeah,
she is given the impression that she is, and Chris thinks at a high enough level that he's like, well, this is what I would do in a situation like that. So they're giving her too much credit to her detriment.
yeah. And actually, this is where I've made a note to myself that I think she should have just invented a fake secret
Yes.
agenda instead of
Yeah.
telling them because it's
Yeah.
made them all think that she's more of a game player than she really
Right.
is. So the conversation goes Lauren and Sydney accusing one another, which we knew was going to happen. Lauren seems convinced that Sydney's the millionaire, and she's brought receipts in her bra, and she pulls
Yeah.
out
Hold on. Let
notes.
me let me get the receipts here that I had
Like as
listed.
if she couldn't remember like the two things that she said.
Right. I mean, there were like five things, I
Okay,
think.
sorry.
There was she had the same look as Lauren, her behavior changed, her breathing changed. She was suddenly able to do the snake, and she volunteered to be the person getting
Yes.
the information at the
Okay.
trophy room.
Okay. I take it back. I take it all back. It's
I
so
mean,
obvious it's Sydney.
I think I could have remembered all of that without having a note in my bra, but
Um, right. This is where I sort of started to have an issue with some of the players. I understand why they want Lauren out. I get
hmm
it. Probably is smart. I think they become weirdly personal about it. Like
oh, they do.
Chris loses his mind. He's really aggressive with her. And yeah, I've written to my notes here are vote for her if you want. You don't need to be this rude about it.
Yeah,
Like
but
they're so mad at her that she lied for 2 days. Even though she was like, well, I was the millionaire, I was playing a game. Like they're so angry about it.
I think it just goes back and forth. Like Chris says, is voting Lauren out for being a strong player a valid reason? And she says, that's a bonehead move. I'm a valuable player. If you tell someone else they're making a bonehead move, they're probably not going to react nicely to you.
No, no.
And she says that she's been open and honest, and they're just like,
Yeah.
really? And the thing is, I mean, they could have double corrected her. Not only have you not been honest because of the game, you also haven't been honest after you were no longer the millionaire.
Yeah, that's the big problem.
Right. And I'm confusing why they didn't show that. Maybe they just felt the production was like, okay, we've already hammered that point home. We don't
Mm.
need to show that again. But then she says the thing that I love. She's been playing with integrity. And I was like, oh God, just vote her out. Um, you know, and then but then yes, Jamie tells her she's ridiculous and she mimics her, which Lauren gets all pissed off about. It devolves into a grade school cafeteria argument.
Yeah, yeah. I found this. I just found it a bit uncomfortable. Yeah, the mimicking and
Yeah.
Jamie sort of uses that phrase again. She says that Lauren irks her spirit, which is funny, but also calm down. Now we've got Kyle saying that he's going to vote for Lauren too,
hmm
which really confused me. Because they had this
Well,
alliance.
but he said that was part of the plan.
Yeah,
He had said it earlier that our plan is to make them think we're voting with them, but we're really not.
I I just don't know how this helps. And yeah, for a minute I thought, oh, is it? is this still the plan? Is he,
I
or has
mean,
he really changed his mind?
I think it helps to surprise them. Um, but yeah, does it really end up helping? I don't know. Maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I mean, we know it doesn't in the end, but as far as, how things end up.
Yeah, yeah. And by the looks of it, Phil is doing pretty well to have
Hmm.
not garnered any suspicion really.
Right,
There was the stone throwing thing, which just seems to have gone away.
right.
Um, so they cast their votes, and this time Peter receives the key bag and tells them that there are two keys. There's a tie. It's Lauren and Sydney. Not really that much of a surprise.
Right,
Well, not that surprised it's those two names and
right.
didn't know it was going to be a tie. And so they have to revote. Of course, they can only vote for Sydney or Lauren, but I guess the twist is that if there's another tie, only the millionaire's vote counts. We get a little bit of Phil and his thoughts here. He tells us that he did vote for Lauren the first time.
Hmm.
He's wondering if he should change. I don't know why bother.
I mean,
Um,
you know,
unless it's unless it's
right.
because well
Well,
they're gonna know.
I think there is a reason to bother. We'll find out later. Yes.
Yeah, is it there, he- his vote is gonna count as the millionaire.
Right.
They're going to figure out that the millionaire voted for either Lauren or Sydney. So if he wants to not look like the millionaire, maybe he should vote out his friend, because then people will not suspect. They'll be like, well,
Right.
Phil didn't vote out Sydney. He gets on really
Right.
well with her.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
he doesn't do
Um, yeah.
that.
But this tiebreaker is interesting because it's just like the real world. Rich people get to skew the vote in their favor.
Yeah.
They get more votes than the rest of us.
Hey,
So
it's a social commentary.
yeah.
Yes, they revote. Peter reveals it's still a tie, but the millionaire voted for Lauren.
Hmm.
And yeah, Lauren, off she goes. Of course, they know that she's not actually the millionaire, but she tells them to not get distracted by loud voices. I wonder who she's
I have
throwing shade
no
at.
idea who she could be talking about. Um,
And Peter gives them a little clue about tomorrow's activity. It will be thirst quenching. I think actually I know from the previews what mission this is going to be.
I purposely skipped the preview. Well, did I skipped the rest of the season on previews. I may have skipped some of the previews. I don't remember for sure. But yeah, I mean, it comes down now. The others get a clue by the millionaire, you know, making this vote, and they know the millionaire is on Sydney's side,
Yeah.
which could further point at Sydney. And I didn't realize they were all going to work this out before this episode ended, so I worked it out, and I'm like, aha! We have Sydney, Phil, and Corey, who were non-chaste and also on this side.
Yeah.
And then they all sit down and talk about how they voted, which was something they wouldn't do previously, but this time they did. And Phil never actually admits how he voted, but it becomes clear how he voted, as Lydia points out. Um, and so, yeah, I mean, Kara is still sure it's Phil. We haven't mentioned the number of times that she said it during the episode, but she's certain. And then everybody else is like, it's down to one of those three. So, yes, I do think he should have switched his vote so he wouldn't have been so obviously outed. He could have been like, no, I wasn't voting against Lauren, or whatever, and then yes, just after I typed it, he says it to us.
Yeah. I think he just didn't think far enough ahead about
Right.
how everybody would piece things together and what
Hmm.
they would figure out. So I ended up not actually looking great for him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I did watch the preview for the rest of the season. So did you? I mean, there's not much. We see Phil saying that he really wants to get rid of the money. And then Peter has a reveal at some point in the season about someone lying about their profession. Lots of shouting, drama,
Hmm.
lies, missions, hooray, all the stuff we expect.
Yeah.
And that's where our first three episodes end. Uh, well, we've got a few questions from listeners actually, because I put out a shout out
Hmm.
on social media, so we got some responses. Should we head to those?
Sure.
I have an email from Alice, who is a long-time listener to the Trader. Hi, Alice. Uh, Alice shared her thoughts on the season with me. She's enjoying it. And Alice asks, is there anyone that we are rooting for or against yet? Do we have like favorite players? Anyone that we really don't want to win?
I mean, I can guess who some of your favorite or your least favorite players are right now. Um, I kind of like Chris because I like the way he's thinking, even though I know you don't like some of his personality quirks there. Uh, most of them I don't have an opinion on one way or another, yet. It's really hard to say what their true gameplay ability is. I
Yeah.
think Lydia has some possibility. I think Corey has some possibility, but his whole thing about, oh, I don't like to lie. Um, you know, I, I don't know. I don't really have any favorites or even least favorites yet. I'd like to see more of how Sydney and Jamie and that crew act now that Lauren is gone.
Yeah. Yeah. In this episode, I found Corey and Jamie just becoming a bit too personal. I thought they were over
Corey
the
or
top.
Chris?
Well, both actually.
Oh, okay.
I thought they were too. I thought they were a bit harsh on Lauren, and
Hmm.
got a bit personal. I like, and I'm basing this on editing choices, perhaps. I like Cara. I think Cara seems pretty observant. She's called out a couple of things
Hmm.
now that she seemed to be on the money with. So I think she may do quite well, and she seems to be getting on with everyone and likable, and she's sort of playing the friendship game. So I suspect Cara is going to do quite well.
Okay. If you want a prediction here, you are asking who I want to win. I would say my winner prediction is Sam.
Ah, okay.
Because we've seen a lot of good things from her. And they had the rare situation of showing her saying she could read people and then actually apparently
Mm,
seeing her reading someone
mhm.
correctly. Um, so I think that, I think she has a good chance of winning.
Okay. I feel like Sam might be one of those players who has such a big personality that it ends up going against. I can kind of see people just turning against that because sometimes loud players just get a lot of negative
Yeah.
attention.
But there's a lot of
Um,
loud players here. So,
well, that's true. Yeah. I have another question. So this was on YouTube, and this is from Ron91409. Hi, Ron, if that's your name. Ron asks, would the show be improved by a larger cast, making possible groups that vie against each other? So there are like, I think 12 people started the show, 12, 13. And
yeah,
yeah,
12.
12. And yeah, actually one of the first things I noticed was it feels, and I'm just so used to watching the Traitors so much where
Hmm.
they have like 22, 23 players at the
Yeah.
start. And yeah, I noticed, oh, it's not really that many people, and already we're down to 10, 9, 10. Um,
I mean, it's only an 8 episode show.
yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me, presuming there's a second season, if it goes up a bit. But like even also on Netflix, The Circle tends to keep its cast small.
Mhm.
They start out with a small number, then they lose a couple, then they add more, then they lose a couple, then they add more. And so I think it's probably just to be able, it's a combination of this is how many episodes were ordered, and this way you can keep track of people
Mhm.
without worrying. Because, if you have, I mean, there are people on the traders who we still don't know multiple episodes in.
Yeah. And people that well, I forget by the end of the
Right,
season. I'm like,
right.
I don't remember those first people murdered, and
Yeah.
so I I would the question is, would the show be improved by a larger cast? I don't think. I think the number suits the game here actually, and I'm quite happy that by the end of episode
Hmm.
one it kind of recognized everybody, and so I don't have a I don't
I,
I don't wish there were more people.
Yeah, I think we'll have a better feel for it by the end of the series, the
Hmm.
end of the season, because if the money only switches twice,
Hmm.
then it'll be like maybe they should have had a longer season with more people in it.
Yeah.
But if it switches like 5 times, then okay, well, then that was enough, and we don't need more people.
Yeah. And in 8 episodes, I think it's only gonna change 3 or 4 times. That's my
Yeah,
guess.
I mean, unless it bounces around a lot in the last couple episodes.
Maybe. Yeah. Yeah. The final question I have is from Serena Wentworth. This was on YouTube. Hi, Serena. Serena says, thanks for taking our questions. Having seen a few episodes now, how would you approach things if you were the secret millionaire? Do we have any tactics? How would we play the game? Is there anything now that we've seen as unwise, I guess?
Well, we've certainly seen things that are unwise. I feel like just it's kind of like being a trader. Try to convince yourself that you don't have the money.
Yeah.
Just act like a normal person. Like don't try to join hands and say a prayer the first time you meet a bunch of people. Don't run around, don't be Sydney running around and making loud accusations and stuff like that, and um just don't walk around the library looking under books. Yeah. Yeah, right. Just kind of be normal. And I know the pressure gets to people. And I know they're looking for anything. Phil is being kind of normal, and yet there are still people saying, Phil looks suspicious. I think, and this will, if you'll allow me to, just transition into one of my final thoughts here. Um, I think there's a lot of um, confessionals where we see, oh, I know it's this person or I know it's that person, which tells me that just like in the traders, there's a lot more confessionals on the editing room floor where people say, I know it's that person and it's not them. Even if, like you said earlier, well, maybe Kara said the same thing about 5 other people. Well, maybe she didn't, but we've only seen Kara saying they know it's Phil, which means each of the other people had confessionals saying they know it's someone else and pointing the finger.
Yeah.
If you have this many people, you're going to find one who says, I know it is
Hmm.
blank. And that's the one you're going to focus on, which is why I'm not convinced yet that Sam is this great reader of people. Yes, we saw her say it. Yes, she seemed to read Lauren. It's a lab experiment with one. You know, we haven't heard her say it about Phil. So is she now 50-50 actually?
Yeah.
Are we going to see later? I know I predicted that she might win just because of the edit, the way she got that good edit. But it might not have been a good edit because she's going to win. It might have been a good edit because they're like, oh, this is the person that's actually, you know, picked her out. We need to highlight that.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, we're only shown the confessionals that are interesting to the story. And it makes that person look good, but a lot of it is chance. They just get featured because they happen to be right at that moment in time. And what would be the point of showing us someone saying, I know it's Lydia, unless that person is going to be shown as being foolish and getting voted out? There's no point in showing it. So they show the stuff that's interesting.
Yeah. Sure. Um, and just to jump back to Serena's question,
Yeah, I kind of lost track of it in that. Sorry.
It's- I would echo what David said, and yeah, try and be likable and amenable and get on with people. And then I'm going to repeat what I've said a couple of times in the episode. I would approach things as the secret millionaire by not necessarily attempting the secret agendas.
Yes.
If I really didn't think they were worth it, I would not find an excuse. I would stay away from reasons to draw attention to
Mm-hmm.
myself. So
Yeah,
that's
some things
how
are
I would play it.
traps, and I'm trying to think of other shows that I've seen. I know I've seen shows that have these traps in there, and I think that some of these secret agendas are traps for the millionaire to fall into,
Mhm.
and they're not really intended for anyone
Helping
to
them.
succeed.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Which I think Phil again. I think Phil made the right decision to not
Yes,
attempt his because
absolutely.
it was a tough one. Might have
Yeah,
been too obvious.
yeah.
Do you have any other overall thoughts about these first three episodes?
Yeah, I'm first of all, let me just say, because I complain about it when it doesn't happen, I am happy they ended the block of episodes after a voting result. They are doing the
Mm,
thing that, we have, at least I have talked about before. They're following more of the Survivor, Big Brother, Bachelor, whoever else type of thing. Like you end the episode more or less with a result. I mean, they didn't literally end it with boom right after. They had a little bit of
mhm.
talk afterwards, which is fine, but they didn't leave us on a cliffhanger, which annoys me. We've seen a lot of that in streaming. We saw it on, oh God, what show was that? It was made by the people of the Circle, where they went down into their bunkers and pretended to be other people. Oh, Anonymous.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh, they pretend to be anonymous. I wonder what that show is. Oh yeah, it's Anonymous. Um, and that annoyed me because it really broke the flow of the show. I don't think we never discussed it, but I've discussed it online. It was like by the time they announced, because they announced the outcome of the vote at the beginning of the next episode. And every time I was like, wait, what was the storyline? Why was that person voted out?
Mm.
It had no emotional impact by that time. It was a terrible way to do a show. And so I was a little worried when in episode 1 they didn't do the vote until episode 2.
Mm.
I was like, oh, they'd better not be doing that the rest of the way. But at least by the end of episode 3, they're in line with doing that. So
I'm gonna play devil's advocate and say I don't mind a cliffhanger. I think I'm basing that very much on Traitors UK though. I think they get away with it in the UK because the show is so successful here that it's you know in the period between episodes it's on social media, it's on TV, everyone's talking about it. So I think they know that they can bank on everyone keeping the conversation going for a week and being excited about it, that they they know that it's got everybody talking about. They know it's got a lot of attention and that you don't forget it a week later. So I
yeah,
think,
and I mean, the other thing is there are 2 eliminations in theory per episode.
mm,
And so I understand it. I understand it with the Traders US also. All the traders basically do it. They keep the cliffhanger to try and get people to watch. But if I had my overall, preference, it would end each
mm,
episode. We would know so that,
yeah,
oh, we can talk about it.
okay,
And
yeah, sure.
so um the next thing that I have is I'm trying to think of what benefit the players get by voting out the millionaire. Because then it just goes back into circulation and they might get it themselves. Okay. I mean, later on, you're going to want to do that, but this
Hmm.
early, who cares? Sydney has a point about getting out a dangerous player. Now, I don't know that I'd call Lauren dangerous, but certainly she was dangerous to Sydney.
Hmm.
Um, and she was, doing a lot of the things we talked about, withholding information and had experience in it and everything else. I it's kind of like we've talked about. If you know who the trader is, why would you want to vote them out early?
Yeah,
Because then they're just going to pick another trader and you're going to start from zero again.
yeah,
So hold off on voting out the millionaire, even if you know who it is, until it's more likely that you can become the next millionaire.
yeah. Unless, this is a complete guess,
Mm-hmm.
unless there's some twist in the format in the first three episodes they haven't caught the millionaire yet.
Right.
Maybe something happens like if you if you correctly eliminate the millionaire, the people who voted for that person then get some sort of advantage and they get to compete for one of you know David and
Yeah.
Matthew, you both correctly identified Phil was the millionaire. You're now gonna one of you's gonna get it, but
Yeah.
these
You don't
people would
want that
know that it
though.
was one of them.
Yeah.
So I don't know. Take it back.
Yeah.
I take it all back. Unless
Okay.
maybe no, I'm gonna keep going. Peter comes to those people in their hotel room secretly and gives them a secret competition. I don't know.
Yeah. But
Maybe.
then they still know, and whoever doesn't get it is going to come out and talk about it.
True.
So,
Okay, scrap that. You're right. What's the point?
um, yeah. So, I mean, And then, when it comes to Lauren, she did it to herself. She assumed, we talked about this, she assumed that just not being the millionaire would take away all her worries, but she massively overplanned or overplayed her hand,
Mhm.
and she was holier than thou on top of it. Um, so yeah, I mean, I do think that she much like Harry and Say Young for that matter, just overplayed their hands. And speaking of which, I don't know. Do you want my prediction for next week?
Is sure your prediction for who is going to be
Yes.
eliminated next? Yeah.
Well, eliminated first. Because I know we're going to get two or
Oh,
three,
yeah, yeah.
probably three. I think Sydney is toast next. I mean, there's
Ah, okay.
there's already suspicion on her. She's one of only three people who could possibly be the millionaire,
Mm.
and she's the leader of her alliance, and she's playing super hard. I think there's just too much stacked against her now.
Yeah, I will happily go along with that prediction as
Yeah.
well. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Any other final thoughts before we wrap up, David? Well, kind of
No.
wrap up. Of course, we've
Yes.
got something very important. We've been playing a game. We've been trying to deceive one another throughout this whole podcast episode in the Trader Traitor before we find out what we lied about, unless we haven't lied yet. David, what other shows can we hear you covering right now, and where is that happening?
So I am all over social media and reality TV podcasting. I am podcasting currently about U.S. Survivor on the Rob Has a Podcast Network. The name of the show is Why Blank Lost. We just posted our fifth episode for the season. Were there five episodes of the season so far? Okay, something like that. I have been also, in addition to that, posting two or three, sometimes more reality TV short videos every day on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram. I mentioned earlier, I'm at David Bloomberg TV. Right now, they are, of course, as I mentioned, Million Dollar Secret, U.S. Survivor, Australian Survivor, where I also post mini Why Blank Lost videos, Extracted, the show I think I mentioned too, and occasionally The Amazing Race. I even have one ready to go of an old Family Feud episode I stumbled on with the worst answer ever given. Worst answer ever given. I am quite sure of it.
Okay.
So,
Can't wait to
uh,
hear what that is.
yeah. And then you can find all of my various accounts at Linktree/David Bloomberg, or you can find me on Blue Sky as at David Bloomberg. I encourage anyone at any of the other places to come over to Blue Sky.
Yes. And which one of these days will happen to me. I'm just not
Yes.
sure when. Uh, as for the trader, if you've enjoyed, please subscribe, leave a lovely review on whatever platform you're using, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Castbox, YouTube, wherever. And you can follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. You can also watch the podcast in case you were just listening to this episode. You can see David and I on YouTube. So there's a whole new dimension that just makes it all so much more worth it. You can see David's incredible background. Um, you can also, of course, leave comments on those platforms. You can also email me at thetradeartpodcast@gmail.com. And haven't mentioned this yet, you can leave a voice memo, which we've had in the past. Lots of listeners have left their voice memos about the traders. So that's at memo.fm/the Trader Podcast. And you get to hear yourself on the podcast. So yeah, for the next batch of episodes. We are looking for your thoughts, your questions. I would just like to echo what David said earlier. Maybe don't assume that we've seen the episodes as soon as they have dropped. So give us a little spoiler alert if you're sending a quick DM or a comment or whatever, and we'll watch them as soon as we can, and we'll be back with the next episode as soon as we can. David, we've been playing the Trader Traitor. Have you been lying to me at some point?
At some point, I did. I mean,
I
99% of what I said was true.
I have
I felt
also
really bad when I told you the lie. Also,
I
it
don't
really
believe
it
you.
really bothered me, and it really hurt me when I had to lie. I don't know if I can keep doing this.
You need to go. You're off this podcast. You're too smart and too sneaky. I've lied to you as well. I confess. Um, I am going to make a few I'm gonna throw out my notes and then I'm gonna pick one. What did I think
You
David
should
lied
definitely
about?
throw out your notes. Just throw them out.
I think you may have lied about Scottsdale, and you said your parents owned a place there, and maybe that was fake. You talked about the poker, and Lydia being you recognized her from this online thing, and you talked about how many times you were mentioned on this site. Maybe there was a lie somewhere in there. You said that Henry, no, so not Henry. There's no one called Henry. Harry, can't read my own writing. Harry responded to you on TikTok. Um, Maybe that's all fake, and I just believed it. Um, you mentioned maybe it was just one of the last things you said. You've got a clip of Family Feud that you're going to post online. I am going for oh Family Feud. That you made that up. You're not going to post about Family Feud.
I am going to post about Family Feud.
No.
I will even give you a hit. So I just happened to turn it on. It was on Game Show Network here. My TV was on. I turned it on, and the question was, what? Oh God, what was the question? It was like, uh, what man is admired or known for his cute face and bulging muscles? And one guy answered O.J. Simpson. And the
Wow.
host just lost it. He lost it. He was like, he was laughing so hard. And this is not like, I mean, I know Game Show Network sometimes goes back to like the 40s. This was from 2020. The
Oh my
guy
God.
knew it was a terrible answer, yes, he lost it. He's like, that's the worst answer anyone has ever given,
Oh dear. Yeah.
So,
Oh,
but
OJ. Okay.
yeah.
That's funny. David, put me out of my misery. What did you deceive me about?
You had it in your list. Lydia only has one tournament cash listed,
Oh,
and it's like for 4,000 and some dollars. She is not some. I did not
she didn't.
recognize her. I had never seen her before. I did not. The idea that they called her a professional poker player, tournament poker player, and she has one cash listed for $4,000. I was like,
Yeah, they're
well, then
bigging her up a bit.
she's either playing off book tournaments, or she's she's living slim here on her four
Yeah.
thousand dollars.
Yeah. So there a bit of exaggeration going on there, perhaps.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I mean, I'm not. I well done. I was, it was one of my options. I was kind
yeah,
of close,
yeah.
so I'm not too mad at myself.
If you list everything single thing I said, then yeah, eventually you'll have as one of the options.
David, what do you think I lied to you about?
Oh gosh. So you mentioned Fortune Hotel
Mhm.
and Release the Hounds. Both of them sound ridiculous. Um, I would swear there's something in the back of my mind telling me that Release the Hounds may have actually been real.
Okay.
Fortune Hotel, you said a lot about it. And that makes me think that I don't know that you'd have gone that in depth with it, but you're sneaky. And I just cannot believe that there was a show that was so close to $1 Million Secret. And everybody's just comparing $1 Million Secret to the traders, and no one that I've seen. Now, admittedly, I haven't read every article about it. So maybe someone did write and say, and then there was the show called Fortune Hotel. I just have to go with your making up something about Fortune Hotel.
Okay. My lie was not about Fortune Hotel. It's
Ah,
it's a real show. Yeah, it's produced by a company called Tuesday's Child. It's coming back for season 2 this year,
how
much
can
to
they make
everyone's
one that's
surprise.
so close to
Yeah,
that?
it's incredibly similar. Everyone just wants their traitors, and there'll be more shows like this. Yeah, but again, I would, in my opinion, Million Dollar Secret is doing a much better
Mm-hmm.
job than Fortune Hotel. Uh, my lie was I was really didn't think I was going to get away with this. when we talked about the mission with the rats and the hedgehog, and I said, I love rats. I used to have pet rats. That was my lie. I didn't
I
have
mean,
pet
I could see
rats.
it. You live in Scotland, or you lived in Scotland. I don't know what kind of pets they have there.
I know people who had pet rats,
Yeah,
but I
I know
wasn't
you
one of
like,
them.
I know you like animals. You like pets. I
Yeah.
should have known you're a cat person, not a rat person. But
Yes. Hooray, got away with it. Listeners, maybe you thought that was so obvious and you caught us out. Let us know. We will be back covering episodes 4, 5, and 6 in roughly a week from now.
mhm,
Send us your questions again, your thoughts. We'll get to them on the podcast. Send us your voice messages. I'm looking forward to it. David, thank you for joining me again. And
absolutely.
I don't have a closing catchphrase for this. Until next time, stay secretive.
And hold on tight to your $1 million.
Bye.
Bye.